welcome to everyone here tonight, and welcome to all the Parks Board members. And I was at the BPAC meeting the other day, which is Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Commission, and everybody there at every meeting introduces themselves. And I thought, well, you know, we know each other, but it would be good for the public to know who we are. So why don't we start with Kara?
Hi, I'm Kara Strang.
Carol Ashcraft.
Jeff Havener.
Bob Edgerton.
Rashawn King.
Beverly Clark.
Marcia Presnell Jeanette.
Lindsay K. Saunders. Shangwen Liu.
Gregory Etheridge.
Great. So thank you. And we will be calling on for public comment now. And I've got a sign-in sheet here. And the first person on the list is John Connors.
Hello, how is everybody? Good to see you again. Happy Earth Day in 2 days, anyway. My name is John Connors. I'm here representing the Wake Audubon Society to give you an update on the wetland pools at Anderson Point Park. On March 27th, 4 members of the Sustainability, Wildlife, and Tree Conservation Committee met with Janine Goodwin and one of her staff from Public Water, 3 staff from the Natural Resources section of Raleigh Parks, and 2 of us from Wake Audubon at Anderson Point Park. Some of the key takeaways that I had from this meeting are as follows, and other people may have different takeaways. There were a lot of private conversations, but this is what I got. Public Water describes itself as committed to environmental stewardship, and I think we can all agree that the service they provide, fresh water and safe sewage disposal, is an essential part of keeping the city functioning. Public Water believes it has followed all procedures required to proceed with the West Noose Interceptor project, and they did receive the environmental permits necessary to replace the existing sewer line. The project will proceed as designed at this point. Public Water did not, nor does it now, feel it necessary to contact Raleigh Parks regarding impact to natural resources within parks or along greenways affected by their projects, unless it will affect the closure of greenway trails or other facilities. I think that's an important point. Clearly, this is the way these operations have always proceeded in the past. But since 2010 or so, Raleigh Parks has had a natural resource staff that is collecting data on the presence of important natural resources in our parks, and they are developing plans on how to protect and, where possible, make them available to the visiting public. Right now, if the state agencies don't have records on these important natural resources, then Public Water will not know about them and they'll proceed. One case in point, a state-listed plant, a species of skullcap, was found at Anderson Point Park by the Natural Resources staff last year. But this record has not yet been recorded with the North Carolina Natural Heritage Program database, and so Public Water did not know about it because they did not consult with the Raleigh Park staff. Fortunately, this population exists just downstream of the impact zone, so is not obliterated as part of this project. In a letter sent to Wake Audubon by Environmental Ecosystems, the environmental consultant on this project, our chapter's concern for the integrity of the wetland pools and the critters that live there was noted, but the consultant then continued and said, while these areas may be relatively rare within the public areas of city jurisdiction, they are not uncommon along the floodplain of the Neuse River or in many areas of the state. In other words, it is okay. Does that mean my time's up?
Yeah, we will let you finish your sentences.
In other words, it is okay if the Raleigh Parks lose these unique and important natural resources because they exist elsewhere. For Wake Audubon members, this is not acceptable thinking. We expect the unique natural resources in our parks to be protected as best they can. Are you going to cut me off here?
Yeah. We have a number of other speakers tonight, too.
Right.
But if you, yeah, I was just going to say.
I will send you the email because there's some other important details here I think you really do need to consider. Most important takeaway is that Raleigh Parks now has a natural resource staff that is assessing these things, and Public water is not approaching them for that information. We need to have communication between these two city things. We, citizens of Raleigh, expect that to happen. We really do.
Well, appreciate that. And I also want to say that it's very helpful to us to get public comment both in our committees and at this table because for instance, in the Greenway committee, through a person coming with public comment, we learned of a lack of communication between a different a different department in the city and how we can facilitate that. And we're a big city and people all have the right intentions, but sometimes it requires the public bringing these things to attention.
Just in conclusion, I want to reemphasize what you just said. I don't think Public Water had any bad intention here. They're just doing the things they've always done, but I think the time has changed. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Sure. And I think Mr. Connors brings up an excellent point, and this does occur. When I accepted the role, I combined the Parks Division and the Natural Resources Division. Within the Parks Division is the Urban Forestry Division, and they see every construction drawing that will come through the city. So working with Charles and his team in the future, when they're routed for urban forestry, they'll flag it, and if there is something that Natural Resources should be looking at. So this is a good course correction for us. So, and it's as a result of some of the things John's brought up. So I appreciate it.
Great. So in that vein, now the next person may not be here, Alicia Koblansky. Oh, you are here. Good. You made it. All right. Very good.
Drive to Raleigh from Durham on the one day I need to be here at 6. Good evening, Park, Recreation, and Greenway Advisory Board. I appreciate your time. My name is Alicia Koblansky. I'm the president of the Raleigh Dragon Boat Club, which is located at Lake Wheeler Park in Raleigh, North Carolina, 27603. Some of you on the committee might not know what a dragon boat is. If you were to visit Lake Wheeler on a Saturday morning or on a Sunday afternoon, you would see this big, huge canoe on the lake with 20 paddlers, a steer person standing on the back, not singing like a bond, you know, like you have Venice, and a drummer in front. We are a dragon boat club, of which we are a 501c3 nonprofit. It was established over 12 years ago. Our club's mission is to not just introduce the sport of dragon boating to the Greater Triangle, but to provide a supportive environment that allows our members and friends of the club to take advantage of the health benefits of the sport, which combines the intense strength and cardio workout without the impact of damage that could occur to the knees, for example. Many dragon boaters you can find them paddling up into their 80s, 90s. It's a fitness sport that allows people to combine not just the health aspects, but also the opportunity to build team bonds and friendships. It's what our sport's all about. We currently support 2 teams. We have a competitive team called Raleigh Relentless, of which we have 2 members here. Relentless is a mixed team composed of a diverse group of paddlers of different races, ages, and genders. We bring this team together for the love of being on the water and the enjoyment of being part of a team. The team over the years has had the opportunity to race in many races across the Southeast and even gone to Puerto Rico to compete in an international race representing North Carolina. Our second team is the Chemokazis, which is our cancer survivor team. It was founded in 2018. This team focuses to promote a health quality of life, including the physical, functional, emotional, and spiritual well-being, while addressing the cancer-specific concerns and cancer-related fatigue that occurs among many cancer survivors. The mission of the team is to reach out to cancer survivors and offer a message of hope and support. Chemokazis are helping to change the attitude toward life after cancer in therapy and encourages those survivors to lead a full and active life. If you take the cumulative enrollment of our club over the years, which we've been around for more than 12 years now, we have had numbers in the hundreds, almost to 1,000. Over the years, the club has been able to work with different companies and agencies to help promote its mission of fitness, team building, and support. We have worked with Merck, American Airlines, Cisco to help with team building activities because at the heart of it, dragon boating is a team building, ultimate team building activity. If you don't work as a team, you don't move the boat. It's as simple as that. We have worked with the Boys and Girls Club with Raleigh and the Sea Scouts, which is part of the Boy Scouts of America, to introduce the sport to teens. We have run clinics with the UNC Lineberger Breast Cancer Survivor Group and currently are working with the American Cancer Survivor Society to help promote the benefits of dragon boating for cancer survivors. In addition, we are partnering with Asian Focus It's also a 503C. That's his main mission is to diversify and support the community. Oh, sorry. Hold on. One
We
paragraph.
gave extra time to Mr. Connors. We'll give you time to finish your sentences, too.
Thank you. To help train and support dragon boat teams that will take part in the Asian Festival. That will be, there's a huge festival that happens at Kookaboo Theater in Cary on the third Saturday of September. And this also includes different high school teams in the area and corporate teams and community members. The club's volunteers have given their time and money to provide the opportunity to citizens of Wake County and the Greater Triangle. And we don't get paid as coaches and members to run these practices, to fix the boats and paddles, to buy equipment, all comes from the generous donations of the club members and our supporters. The annual club membership dues are still the same as it was founded. I mean, we're not asking for anything. We just want people to have the opportunity to paddle on the boat and see the sport, just to have the opportunity to just enjoy this. So in our way, our Dragon Boat Club has been supporting the Parks and Recs cultural resource mission and vision by quoting, "Together we connect and enrich our community through the exceptional experiences and bring people to parks and the parks to people." Both teams practice at Lake Wheeler Park since the club's boats and equipment are stored there. However, storage of the equipment has been an issue for our club. The club has requested the ability to store equipment on site and not depend on
But
members.
we're going to have to, I try and let people go, finish their sentences, but.
I just have, it's one
Okay,
paragraph.
real
It's one
quick.
paragraph, I promise. Because it's one thing, it's like people don't know we've been here for so long. I just want an opportunity to let people know. And we had a proposal put together by other of the non-water community members that are at the park to share a storage shed with two new rowing clubs, St. Augustine and the UBC. But we were rejected with no explanation. And for more than a decade, this has been something that our club has been dealing with a rejection with no explanation as to why we cannot have this addition of storage. And it's something that we know well about keeping it green. I just request that the advisory board consider the current proposal that was drafted among all the non-motorized club members, that we're not requesting any monetary funds from the city. We're not asking for anything. We're just asking for you just to take a moment to look at our proposal and to help us support the forward drive of our clubs. Our club is built on the shoulders of volunteers who go beyond this opportunity to
Ms.
citizens of the Triangle.
Oblonsky, I'm going to have to.
But we
cut you-
do, and just in conclusion, we would like to give you guys the opportunity to see the lake from our eyes. Because it's so easy to come to our sport, because we open it to everyone. Just come to one of our practices, get on the boat, and we will introduce Lake Wheeler to you in a different venue.
And I know that some members of the board will be attending the collegiate
Yes.
races this weekend at Lake Wheeler. So that will increase familiarity. And
thank
if
you
you
for your
wish
time.
to email something to us, you can. All of our email addresses are on there if you have a specific request or some information you want to share with us.
Can I ask
But
one question real fast? The proposal you talk about that's been rejected, is that a proposal that's coming to our board? I haven't.
No.
For the city?
Use the mic
Yes. Oh, it doesn't work. Okay, is that better? Proposal coming to, not coming to the board.
It comes to the staff.
It comes to the staff.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we were just trying to make you aware as an advisory
Got
board
it.
what's happening.
Okay.
Because we have talked with the city of Raleigh and the officials in the park, and we were told through those channels, this could not move forward. It's clear that we need to open other avenues, and we need your help as an advisory board to hear the community members what we need in addition. And I do think it's an opportunity for all of you to have, not just rowing, but there are other water sports out there. And we're trying to incorporate what else can be done at the lake itself. It's a beautiful lake. It should be protected, and we want to make sure it's protected.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is H.T. Slaughter.
Good evening, all, and thank you for your time. I'm H.T. Slaughter, the head coach of the rowing club at NC State, and our club is dedicated to our mission of teaching any and all how to row and to promote lifelong fitness. We pride ourselves on being open and inclusive and welcoming anyone and everyone to experience the joys and challenges of rowing. Our club and others at Lake Wheeler currently face a significant issue, that being storage space. Our limitation is hampering the growth and restricting our ability to expand our program and serve the community better to the best of our ability. We currently can only store but so many boats and pieces of rowing equipment at the lake, and that massively hampers, our ability to reach our full potential, getting everybody on the water. Additionally, last year we established an outreach program, committing to share our equipment and coaching staff, such as myself, to start the St. Augustine's University rowing team, the first women's HBCU rowing team in the country. This partnership has great potential to expand diversity in the sport of rowing, and build upon our mission to bring rowing to any and all in the community. Since St. Augustine's first started rowing last year, they have made national news, national rowing news, about all that they've accomplished, and they've been promised boats and equipment from a variety of donors across the country. Unfortunately, there is nowhere currently to store their boats and equipment. We want St. Augustine's to be able to stand on their own and be proud of what they have accomplished, but that's presently not possible with the current storage situation that we have at the lake. With the combined effort of the rowing community and non-motorized community at Lake Wheeler, we have a plan to increase storage capacity, and that plan was shared with park staff and staff within the Parks and Recreation Department. So for multiple clubs at the lake, we are asking for support and approval in our plan to build additional space at the lake to store our equipment and boats. With this approval, we can not only continue to grow, but also encourage, other people to, found their rowing clubs and whatnot at the lake, providing even more individuals with the opportunity to access rowing and start like a lifelong journey of fitness. I understand that there are many requests and demands placed upon the city and the Parks and Recreation Department, but we firmly believe that supporting the expansion of our club's storage area is a worthy cause that will benefit the community. Lake Wheeler is quickly becoming a popular place to row in the Southeast, with more and more people wishing to row. I want to see the long history of the sport of rowing in the city continue to expand and grow. In conclusion, I implore you to recommend approval for our plan to build additional storage for the rowing community and non-motorized community at Lake Wheeler. Thank you.
Thank you. And the next speaker on this topic is Stephen M. Mr.
Good evening. My name is Stephen McGinnis, and I'm the president of the rowing club at NC State and a student at NC State. And I thank you for taking the time to listen and consider my request. I moved to Holly Springs in 2015, North Carolina, and from there I've been on a club for Triangle Rowing Club for 4 years, which is the youth-based program, and then I attended NC State and been on this club for 3 years. In my 7 years of rowing on this lake, there has been so much expansion from the team here in size, but not in rack space. As our wonderful coach has said, many other programs are coming to our lake, and even this weekend, we have a large regatta. With more tourism because of our regattas here at Lake Wheeler, the Lake Wheeler Invitational, which is tomorrow and Saturday, as well as Lake hosting the 2023 ACC Rowing Championship at Lake Wheeler. While we at NC State unfortunately do not have a D1 program for men's or women's, we do love seeing rowing on our lake as a host for a regatta and to see the potential the area has for rowing. Additionally, this past weekend, the team traveled to High Point, North Carolina, and we competed in the North Carolina Rowing Championship, which we brought back some colds for the pack. My parents, who I've thrown into the sport that I love so much, talked to me afterwards with just so much awe on how large that regatta has become. Additionally, with more outside North Carolina, Tennessee, and Virginia teams at that regatta, new teams from NC are coming out too, including University of North Carolina, Wilmington, and many new masters and youth programs from all across North Carolina. I know the love for rowing isn't going to stop anytime soon, and I know it'll only grow in this great state. I love showing everyone and anyone the sport, but unfortunately right now our rack space is limited and the cost for storage has been increasing. It becomes more and more inaccessible financially for college students who are already paying for tuition and fees. While the sport is expensive, we do the best we can to decrease the price by working together on fundraising and doing work. But when we are forced to increase dues, it sometimes is the tipping point for some to continue the sport they love. I'll leave off that I appreciate all the work done here and understand there are many demands of the City of Raleigh and Parks and Recreation. We're growing here in NC, and we will continue to work the best way to stay afloat and continue to expand with some more members and become as financially affordable as possible. After graduating from NC State, I look forward to hopefully coming back to the lake if I move and see a large diversity of people loving the sport that brought me and my friends happiness. I humbly request that you recommend approval for our plan to build additional storage for the rowing community at Lake Wheeler. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And at this point, I think, are there any other rowing speakers? Oh, or did you sign up? Oh, okay. Sure. Then I'll call you up. Is that, there it is. Cordelia? Courtney? Oh, okay. Yeah, no, because that's Cordelia. Okay.
Good evening. I love the fact that the Dragon Boat with adults and then the college team, and I'm here, Courtney Clark is my name, and I'm the president of the Triangle Rowing Club, which is our youth team. We have rowers from ages 7th grade through 12th grade. We're out at Lake Wheeler, which is our favorite place to be, well, my kids' favorite place to be. And we have about 130 rowers out there. And we are growing. Well, we would like to be growing, but just like the other people have spoken, I'm not going to repeat what they said. We're kind of busting at the seams. We are this weekend headed to a regatta in Tennessee where we will pick up a new boat that we've purchased. But when we come back, we have to take a boat that is perfectly serviceable that could be rowed off of a rack and go store it off site where it can't be used to put the new one on there. So I have to take a boat that could be used by our middle school girls, which is one of our largest squads, and I have to take it off site where it can't be used so I can use this new boat, which is better. But I got plenty of middle school girls who would like to be on that boat, but instead during practice, they have to do a land practice with rowing machines or circuits because I don't have a space to store that other boat for them to use during their practice. So we are ready to grow. We piloted a scholarship program last year, and we're ready to fully fund it this year, but I'm hesitant because I don't have any space to get more people to recruit more kids to join because I don't have any boats to put them in, and it's really hard to motivate kids to come out and row if you can't put them in a boat, right? They don't want to be on land, they want to be in a boat. But if I don't have boats to put them in because I can't store them, I can't put them in water, right? So you see where we're kind of just strung up with this storage rack, just like they've spoken about. And our proposal that we've shared with the city is just a proposal to kind of rearrange the storage out there. And you know, our first idea for the proposal is to rearrange it in a way that doesn't take up that much more space than what we have. We just want to use it more efficiently because we understand that we're in partnership with other users of the lake and other patrons, and we certainly understand that there are people out there using it besides our little coalition of people, and we want to be respectful of that. But we also know that we are a large growing group and we need more space and more storage for that. So we just want to work with the city in a way that we can find a win-win and keep our sports that our kids and our, you know, all of us are loving and make a way for that to be possible. So we're just looking forward to working with the city. And I think a little bit of what you're hearing tonight from our group is some frustration that we've been asking for this. I'm late to the group in that I've been doing this for 7 years involved. My oldest is now 21 and she started in high school. And I've been asking for this for 7 years and some of the people have been asking for 10. So I think you're hearing some frustration come out about these requests. I think that's what you're hearing tonight. So anyway, I look forward to it.
Thank you very much. And with the approval of this board, I think what we'll do is we'll ask that the staff bring us a presentation in maybe our June meeting, and that way we can learn a lot of the background of what you're proposing and what the responses are, and then this committee, this advisory board can make that's the appropriate time for us to make any comments, because at this point we don't have all of the information, but we can have staff bring their information. And if you'll be sure that Giovanna has your email, then she can notify you when it is on the agenda so that you can come and hear that presentation as well. Mr. Ben?
All of them are great partners. This is pretty much symbolic of a lot of uses in our park system, from futsal to soccer to basketball to pickleball. It's capacity. And I appreciate this group. She's right. All the members are right. If I may make a friendly recommendation, you're developing your work plan, that this go in your work plan, because if not, you'd have to go to council to ask to work on this, and by the time you do it, it would be So
we
we'll
will
do
put
that.
it in our work plan.
I can also say we're making some adjustments in the department to look at it. And it's a complex issue. It's a watershed, increasing impervious surface. And every group that came up here is a private club, right? So it's public-private space. So we always reconcile that, but I can't say enough about the groups out here. They are wonderful partners. So, but if you put it in your work plan, we'll bring you information. No, I think that's the best approach.
Great, thank you, and that is what we will do. We'll be working on that later tonight. Our next speakers are emblematic of the same issue, and that is capacity as a growing community and a growing city, and and our land doesn't grow for park space commensurate with the number of people and the sports increasing, et cetera. And I saw somebody raise their hand, but
With the rowing group as well, if you wanted to consolidate, I also signed up to speak today. Spencer Sprague.
I don't have you on my list. But I think you've been heard. Okay. Would you say? I'm hoping that's your.
I represent disabled veterans that are also using the lake.
Excuse me, sir. Can you come up to the mic if you're going to speak? We need to have it for audio. Thank you.
I always feel like I'm opening a beer.
Thank you.
My name is Spencer Sprague. I know you've already heard quite a bit about the storage concerns there, so I just want to speak a little bit about our program and what we represent and who we're looking to help. I'm an Army veteran, and I am the Unity Boat Club North Carolina Program Director, currently the only non-government service provider for the Veterans Administration in the state for adaptive rowing for disabled veterans. We've chosen our home to be on Lake Wheeler, and we would love to be able to continue using it. Rack space is a severe limiting factor for us as well. I also want to point out that in constructing rack space, we're also constructing rentable spaces, and we are therefore potentially growing the revenue for the park system by about $12,000 annually with our proposed increased storage at no cost to the parks. I hope to implore you all to be able to support that. I think that that's a great cause that we can all get behind.
All right. Well, great. Well, we will, as I said, we'll get a staff report and learn about you've given us a great understanding of the positive benefits, and now we'll learn some of the limitations, and we'll see if we can reconcile that in our recommendations. So the next speakers are, next person I have on my list is Kyra P. from Broughton Athletic Fields.
Hi, I'm Kira Pettibone, and I'm from Broughton, and I'm on the women's soccer team, and I'm a goalkeeper. So Broughton is a landlocked school, which means that we do not have ability to construct additions to our campus. Most other Wake County public school system high schools have the ability to have multiple practice fields on their campuses due to their locations further from downtown. We would like to have more options for practice facilities, as we currently use our only game field for both practices and games for multiple sports. Field availability is severely limited, causing JV and women's sports to experience frequent cancellations due to overscheduling of our only on-campus field. Broughton Athletics relies on the public fields at Fletcher Park to provide training locations for multiple sports teams. On behalf of the Broughton women's soccer team, I would like to thank Raleigh Parks and Rec for allowing our school to use the public fields at Fletcher Park. The park is essential to the Broughton community, and it provides a location for upperclassmen to eat lunch, sports teams to hold practice, and public parking. The greater Raleigh community also benefits from having a natural area for activities such as walking pets, using the same fields, and enjoying the beauty of the outdoors. We recognize our privilege in being able to use Fletcher Park, and we have a few requests which would help Broughton community and the greater Raleigh community to enjoy the park more sustainably. We would like to see improvements to the quality of the fields that Broughton Athletics uses daily. Our schools host daily practices for both JV and varsity men's and women's lacrosse, and occasionally men's and women's soccer. The heavy traffic on the fields due to the number of users from our school alone, in addition to the Raleigh Charter track and field team, and the greater Raleigh community causes serious damage to the limited grass on the fields. The field conditions include large clumps of rocky ground, loose dust, and dead grass. These conditions do not allow for productive practices as athletes are more focused on avoiding holes in the ground or loose rocks than on perfecting their sports. The use of these fields as they are is not sustainable, and we would like to propose the installation of synthetic turf in order to preserve the quality of the multipurpose fields year-round. This would allow for more use in different weather conditions, as the fields are currently unusable during or after rainy weather. Installing synthetic turf would allow more people to use the fields without decrease in quality due to overuse. Additionally, in my experience as a goalkeeper, practicing diving saves at Fletcher is a risk because there's lots of glass shards, sticks, and rocks. I hope you all will consider advocating for the installation of synthetic turf on the public multi-purpose fields at Fletcher Park by recommending changes to the park budget and improvements in the quality of the fields. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Christy Pettibone?
Hello, Christy Pettibone. I am a soccer mom, minivan and all. So my two kids, Kira just spoke, and my other daughter, Skylar, has got major allergies and can't talk tonight. I'm also representing a couple other families here from the Broughton School, as well as all of our soccer players. We've got about 45 players, about 45 families that are involved, and that's every year, so we cycle through. You heard a bunch of the issues from my daughter. I think a couple things that I want to reinforce. One is that the sharing the space at Fletcher, right? It's great to have it. As they said, we are having to coordinate with Raleigh Charter as well as any other people who happen to be using the field. I also had to schedule some space there for a gathering, and the field, they were just gross. I mean, like there was trash everywhere. So having them practice there. Anyway, I think the other piece that the impact that I just want to make you guys aware of, when they have to change the practice times because, either because of the rain or because, some other team got bumped or whatever, it really has an impact on the families, because what that means is that kids can't have jobs after school and after practice. If they have tutoring or counseling or other things lined up, they can't get to that on time because practices have been canceled or changed. And then if they're there to, if they're have responsibility for picking up siblings or things like that. So there are several impacts that affect the families beyond just these kids can't play their sport. So as Kira said, we are requesting updates to the fields, both at Fletcher and at Broughton. The first one, I don't think Kira mentioned this, but we would love to see some fencing around the fields, not to keep people out, but to keep our resources in. So if they are taking shots on the goal, right now, if they're at Fletcher, the ball, if they miss, right, is going out, onto St. Mary Street or out beyond the field, and it just takes up more of their practice time chasing balls when they could be using that. So we want fencing to kind of help them with that piece of it. Lighting would be great so that they can extend the amount of time that they can practice. We can run practices later in the wintertime. And then the third thing, as Kira said, would be turf. Really to make sure that, we're going through spring right now with all the rainy weather, right? Just to make sure that they can practice on these fields and not have things canceled. Cardinal Gibbons is our arch rival, and they've got, 2 or 3 turf fields that they're able to use. So the amount of time that they are able to put into practice that we are not just makes a huge discrepancy between the quality of our training. So those are the 3 things that we're asking for: lighting, fencing, and turf. I invite you to come out. We have senior night for our seniors on Monday at our field. Love for you to come out and see the fields for yourself. We can walk you over to Fletcher so you can see those fields. I think that's it. Thank you for your time. If any of my Broughton families want to raise their hands, they can see who else is out there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we have Andrew. Yeah, okay.
My name is Andrew Chadwick. I'm here on behalf of Broughton and the Fletcher Park. I think I bring a unique perspective. I was a head coach at Greenway High School in Cary, and I helped maintain the soccer field and the lacrosse field. The amount of effort, time, environmental impacts with fertilizers and all the things related to that is cumbersome. You mentioned we are landlocked, and we're not asking for more land. We're asking for a resurfacing of the existing land. I've been out there on a Saturday or a Sunday at Fletcher Park, and the community uses that field just as much as the high school. Soccer's an international sport. We have all different demographics come out there and make a day of playing soccer on this field on Saturdays and Sundays. My daughter goes to Broughton now. I haven't lost my allegiance to the school I coach, so very proud of what we did. But yeah, if we can look at resurfacing the field with field turf, lighting would be great. There's just a lot of opportunity that these kids are not getting. There's no other turf field that I can think of inside of 440. They're all on the weekends. Everyone who wants to go play has to go to Apex. Hunter Street, you go there on a Saturday, there's kids and people all over that field enjoying it, part of the community, not just the high school. So we'd like something in town or we can use during inclement weather. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. And Matt Peterson?
Hi, thank you so much. I'm sorry I'm hoarse. I just came from the Broughton JV lacrosse game. I'm a volunteer coach for the JV lacrosse team. My son's on varsity. He's actually playing right now, but I chose to be here rather than watch him play today to address you all and ask you for your help. So we're very fortunate that we get a chance to use Fletcher Park for lacrosse, for soccer. We didn't mention that football practices on it. The band uses it to practice their field routines, and then the community is using it all the time. When my lacrosse and soccer guys get off, my lacrosse guys get off it, the community's got Little Tyke soccer, they've got spike ball, they've got soccer on Saturday and Sunday with men's adult league, and the field just gets too much use, too many feet on it. And the reality is that for Broughton, those sports need to go all the way to December. They need to start in February because that's when our season starts. And warm season grass, the kind of grass that is best for athletic fields, doesn't grow until now. It doesn't turn green until now, and it doesn't get robust until May. And by that time, the fields look like this. And I'll pass that out. I think there's one for everybody. So the first picture is a eye-level shot of what Upper Fletcher Field looks like on Tuesday. That's this Tuesday. The second picture is a drone shot of that same field on this Tuesday. The third picture is Lower Fletcher with my athletes playing on it, also a drone shot. And then the fourth field is what Cardinal Gibbons' practice field looks like. And I know they're a private school, but they're in our conference. It's a whole different subject for a different day and a different board. But that's who we compete against. Not only do we compete against them, but we compete against every other high school that has fenced, locked fields only for their athletes. So every time it rains, and the Raleigh Park Services, they're doing the right thing by keeping us off the field because it's absolutely too wet to play on. But then that means that my athletes have lost 25% of their practice days versus the teams that either have 2 or 3 fields that they can rotate and practice on, or we're kicking off the girls' soccer team because we've got a 4:30 game, a JV game, and they're supposed to have practice till 4:30, but those things don't work together. So I want to ask for your help, your support, your creative ideas. I think there's members of the community that would be willing to help fund something like this, but I really don't think it's fair for the community to pay for all of it. I think there could be city funds, there could be county involvement because the county, the school is using the field, and actually, if you know, the property line runs through Upper Fletcher. So it's even more challenging for Upper Fletcher because part of it's owned by Wake County Schools and part of it's owned by the park. So we really need your help. Thank you so much, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. And are there any other speakers on that topic? We did hear from staff somewhat on this topic when the JV lacrosse players came. And one question, I have a lot of familiarity with this. I started the lacrosse team at Enloe in in the year 2000, I think. So I go way back on this. And and Enloe was practicing on the lower Fletcher Field. I know how bad it is. I assume you've made this comment to the Caps Club. That is a source of substantial resources. And if the Caps Club is not keenly aware of this on their budgeting process, then they should be. And additionally, as I said before, the Wake County Board of Education is also someplace where you all need to bring this matter to their attention as well. Because you're right, the schools in all of the hinterlands are a lot less landlocked than particularly Enloe and Broughton. So I understand. I think we all have heard it, and it's something that won't have a quick fix, but it is something that it's a real issue. We don't dismiss that, and so thank you all for being here.
Quick question. What's the Caps Club?
Our athletic booster club for Broughton.
For Broughton. Okay,
Yeah.
got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And it has a pretty big budget. So, thank you. Thanks to all of the public.
It's not equity. They want to share it with the city and the citizens. If the city turns the community loose, we'll go find the money.
I would agree with that response, and so I think that's.
Great opportunity for public-private partnership. I mean, it's a win-win. They're not here asking.
We really have to have for public purposes everybody to introduce themselves and speak on the record, because people who are watching this on television can't hear in the back of the room.
Sorry, John McConnell. There's no reason for five people to say the same thing, but I graduated from Broughton too many years ago, and I have children who will not benefit. They'll be gone, but it's a win-win. I mean, I don't know what the bureaucracy and there's a lot when you start getting private and public funds together, but if the city and the Parks and Rec say, go find the money, I think the will is there, and it's not just for Broughton. I mean, it's a great community fields, and so whatever needs to happen, if y'all can turn that loose, I think the Broughton community would work to find the resources.
What's your name, sir?
John McConnell.
John McConnell.
Yes, sir.
You guys didn't all say the same thing. You're the one that said that the Caps will come up with the money.
Yeah,
Nobody
okay,
else
good.
said that.
I'm glad you're here.
Nobody else said that. So the bureaucratic part is the bureaucratic part, but
You're right.
And there's always money involved in that, so we appreciate that.
Yeah, the community is willing to. You tell us to go find the money, they'll go find it. Yeah. And it'll be benefit the city. I mean,
Yeah,
they
and
wanna
we have
share.
a couple of board members who want to ask questions. So if anybody over here, I know Mr. Edgerton would like to ask a question. Use your mic, please.
My coach is the one who needs to answer the question.
I have a general question.
I've been working on this issue for a year, so I probably have the most depth of knowledge of anybody in the room, maybe. Questions?
Oh, okay. I have a question about athletic fields in general and synthetic turf. If you have so many different sports taking place on one venue, can you put things like, football, soccer, field hockey? Now, field hockey may be a problem, but can you construct synthetic turf that is serviceable?
Yes. So those lines, if you go to Cardinal Gibbons, you'll find all of those lines on their football field or on one field. We just played a lacrosse game on it. There are football lines on it. There's women's lacrosse lines on it. There's soccer lines on it. Multiple sports can use one field.
And field hockey?
Field hockey has a different kind of turf.
I know.
We have field hockey in our
Broughton
public
doesn't have a
schools.
field hockey team, and I'm not aware of field hockey clubs in Raleigh, but that has a different kind of turf. It's got the old what you'd call AstroTurf type of turf, which they sand and water.
Meredith has one that's very visible from Gorman Street.
Yes, and that one is the kind of turf that soccer, football, lacrosse, and soccer
There's
typically
a multi-use.
Multi-use.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all very much.
Have you guys approached the school board on the issue?
We have, I don't want to speak for members of the school board, but Sam, who's the District 6 rep.
Sam is aware. I'm texting with him right now.
Sam and I have been talking since before he got elected. I talked to his predecessor about this about a year ago, had a meeting with her. Sam's very well. I don't want to speak for him. He's an elected member of the school board. So
I'm just curious.
But he and I have had multiple conversations about this, and I think he's broadly supportive of the fact that Broughton needs more and the community needs fields that can be used by everybody.
Yeah, sure.
You know.
All right. We're going to wrap up public comment because we have a very, very full agenda for this evening.
I would love to stay if there's going to be comment from the parks folks, but if not, I'm going to go to my son's lacrosse
see your son.
game
We will not
and watch
be
the
addressing
second
it
half.
tonight. And again, if Giovanna Harris has your email for either the topic of rowing or the topic of fields, she will make sure when the issue is on the agenda that you are notified so that you can attend.
And I've spoken with Christina Jones and also with Jonathan Melton about this issue.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Before you go, Coach. So as far as use and longevity, it makes sense. But what about the health of the athletes? How does it affect them, the synthetic
So
turf?
I'm not an expert on that. I know there are some differences between an excellently maintained grass field and a field turf field.
This is
but
a topic.
We're
going to address that when we have a staff presentation. So we're not going to get into all of the details.
It's not an issue. Yeah, I work for environmental health science. It's not an issue.
But that's the kind of thing that a question we'll ask staff when they come to give us a further update. All right. That's the end of public comment. I think that's a record, our longest public comment, but we really do appreciate it. We honestly and truly learn from people bringing issues to our attention. We can't solve every issue. We do not have a bucket of money back here like we wish we did. Believe me, I have my own personal list of things I would like to see us fund too, and they don't all that all doesn't happen. But it does help us to provide feedback and guidance to our elected officials and to be better informed members of our community. So thank you all very much, and especially the students and young people.
I'm supposed to go to Lake Wheeler tomorrow to the rowing competition, and I have no idea what I'm supposed to do. You will take care of it? I'll take care of it. Oh, okay. Well, that's good news. That was quick. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. So our next item on our agenda is the Raleigh Youth Council. Cordelia.
Hi, I'm Cordelia McKelvey. I'm representing the Raleigh Youth Council. So we're really excited to be heading to our final conference of the year, the spring convention, this weekend. We will be competing for awards for our service over the past year, and we have submitted for the most creative service project, and that's our mural project at Tarboro Road Community Center, where we've been beautifying the space with painting the letters to spell out Tarboro with different icons and items representing the youth, the city of Raleigh, and other parks. So we had our members gather and come up with some ideas. We had people sketching out designs, and we had people painting the background of the letters and all the little details inside.
Cool.
So-
I hope we'll get so that somebody on the staff will make sure we get a picture of that. That sounds
Absolutely. We're really excited to help represent the people using that space, including summer camps and anyone from the public that comes in, and to be using the courtyard for future programming since it hasn't been used very much in the past. So we're hoping it makes the space just a lot more welcoming and exciting. We've also had a dog supply drive over the past month, and at our most recent meeting, we had our members cut up old T-shirts into strips and then braid them into dog toys. So we want to make sure we serve all demographics, including our furry friends, and these dog toys were donated to local animal shelters. And we're really excited to have had such a successful drive and have all of our members contribute to it. Even if they couldn't donate an item, they could help make one. And some people even learned how to braid for the first time that night. So it was a really fun experience. At our upcoming meeting, we'll be having elections, so our new executive board will come in. I'll be coming back with our new chair next time you see me. And we're really excited to have that new executive team start planning what's next for RYC over the summer. We've had a lot more opportunities, since pandemic's been happening, we've had a lot more opportunities open up more recently, and we're really excited to see what's coming next for the next year of RYC. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Carmen, are you presenting too? Okay, sure. I saw your name is on my list though. All right. And then we have a presentation from Shasheen Baker on the capital project process. And I think this is sort of a humbling kind of time because it reminds us that all these improvements that we would like to see at Lake Wheeler and at Fletcher Park and all the other places, it takes time, it takes planning, it takes money. And
Thank you, Beverly. Good evening, members of the board, Madam Chair. I'm Shasheen Baker, Capital Projects Superintendent with Raleigh Parks, and we're here this evening to provide an overview of the capital project implementation process. And you're probably quite familiar with this graphic by now. Last month, staff provided a presentation on the planning and engagement section of the process, and we are here to talk about the design and construction segments this evening. Okay, first off, when we have a master plan and we have a project, we have a budget, assuming, and we would need to hire consultants first. There are several ways to select a consultant for smaller projects and less complex projects. So we use in-house expertise and licensed professionals to conduct design and permitting and CA, construction administration services. And for larger projects, for most of our projects, we hire consultants on either single project basis or we have them under master services agreement, which we also call them the on-call services to save money because they're qualification based. Currently, we have 11 master services agreement for Greenway and 16 for parks. And sometimes, if the project is following along the adoption of master plans, we can use the master plan consultant as long as they're qualified to perform the work. Well, we have a consultant, and there's actually a lot of homework to do before we dive into the actual design. We need to understand that together with the consultants, we need to understand the city's strategic initiatives, comp plan update, small area corridor studies, and we need to review the adopted master plan for the specific park that we're working on, understanding budget schedule. And also, more importantly, we need to update the social context and the park access data for the service area that the project's located in. And then we need to design the engagement plan and re-engage the community advisory group, CAG, that we call it for now. And you're going to see that acronym for the next 2 years, probably. And then together with the consultant, we need to assess and study the site of the project and review the program needs, and sometimes we need to perform feasibility study of the project. And during the implementation process, this for the schematic design phase, and that's where we really need to re-engage or engage the public and also involve boards and commissions reviews as well as council approval if needed. Now let's zoom into the schematic design segment, and we re-engage the community, including the board members representing the board serving on the CAG, Community Advisory Group. And we typically have alternative concepts to take out to the community for feedback and then take their input and we go back to our homework and prepare a draft schematic design and then back to the back to the community for validation. And once we have a pretty solid draft schematic design, we then take to the boards and commissions for review and then comments, and eventually for some projects for council, city council approval. Okay, this is another graphic that you're probably quite familiar with. For the implementation process, again, we utilize the levels of engagement primarily including inform, consult, and involve. During the design and permitting phase, that's where we get into technical design and documentation. Not a whole lot of engagement involved. However, we do keep the public informed through project website update and newsletter distribution, as well as directors' reports to the boards and commissions. And also during the technical phase, we conduct cost estimates and look at land and easement acquisition, particularly for those Greenway linear projects. And we engage cross-departmental review coordination, and we're constantly looking for grants and partnership opportunities. Bidding and construction, that's primarily staff function. However, during construction, there's some opportunities for involvement, and we could have grant breaking at the beginning of construction, or if the board or community prefer, we can conduct a hard hat tours as long as we can work with the contractor to ensure the safety of all the public members. And then at the end of the construction, we will get into the most exciting moment, dedication. Here are just some photos of past grant breakings and dedications, which are definitely my absolute favorite, best moments. And with that, I would like to take questions.
Yes. Questions?
Hi.
Kara?
Thank you for that. That was very interesting. Something we've been talking about lately is what the Greenway over by Shelley Lake. I can't remember what it's called.
Mine Creek.
I should. Mine Creek, yeah. And that was from a bond project, and it didn't happen. And, you know, here we are now years later, and there's all this stuff going on. So we've got a lot of large projects in this most recent bond. It's very exciting. I want to see them all like tomorrow, which won't happen. But how are we staying on track and like keeping things moving along, knowing that, you know, there's a lot of weird things going on with construction post-COVID and just lots of things going on in the city competing for resources. How are we going to move all these things along to make them happen in a tight time frame?
That is actually a very good question, and it'll probably take another seminar to go through all the details. However, we can tell you that the staff has been working, even though the funding is not available yet. It will be part of the 2024 CIP budget, which will start July 1st. However, staff has been working, and to help expedite the process, we have looked at the demographic data. We are preparing engagement plans already, and each project is having a draft charter to spell out responsibilities
Shashi,
and roles.
Can I interrupt you for a second?
Yes.
Can you go back to that slide
Yes.
that itemized those so we can kind of check off?
Which one?
Back one more. I think
I think it was the
very beginning.
Oh, very, sorry.
This
Well,
one. This one?
I'm not sure.
Maybe it was in the engagement one.
Yeah.
SDDD bidding.
Yeah.
That's fine. Sorry, I acronym.
This one?
No, keep on going.
This
Yeah,
list
that's
here?
the one.
Okay. Okay. You're wondering where we are. We are before the schematic design because for most of the projects, we do not have the budget yet. However, staff is jump-starting with some homework and preparation. As I mentioned, that checklist, the homework that we're doing all that right now.
Kara,
That's going to be your May presentation, because on May 9th, I'm giving the rollout of the Parks Bond, what we have done the last year. Shasheen is right. So we've been involved in 2 bonds, and I can say confidently we've never been more prepared. And it is because the 2014 bond and the Parks Bond and the 2017 Transportation Bond, projects were cut and reduced. So my boss, the deputy city manager, said, that's not going to happen, or we need to minimize that. So we've been meeting since last June. So before the bond was even adopted, we have a group that Shasheen, myself, the chief financial officer, the head of construction, the head of planning, we meet every other Wednesday, and we have since last June. And the goal, you'll hear this, we're going to create dashboards, so you're going to see if it's green, we're good. If it's red, for transparency, we're off budget or we're off schedule. So a lot of work is going into that. I'll present that rollout to the council on May 9th, and then at your board meeting on the 17th, 18th. And then the following month, we will say which projects does the board want to have board members volunteer for. So.
And to give a little bit of additional perspective, back in 2019, when we were preparing as a Parks Board, and only a couple of you all were members then, but we were preparing for a 2020 bond before COVID. And so every project that was presented to us, and we did sticky notes and all of that kind of thing, they had preliminary ballpark numbers and, you know, some kind of design concepts, not specifics. So building on that information, and then it's obviously escalated even with greater depth. But yeah, I feel like, and they've also built in cost overruns this time. In the past, the city did not build in cost overruns, and or they only did a really small, and now they're more prepared for that. So I think the level of sophistication on the building side of the city and parks has increased dramatically.
And preemptively for messaging, one of the things we'll be sharing with the council is, here is the schedule and here's the dollar amount. So when we go to the community, we'll say, we're going to do public engagement for 6 months. If not, there's trade-offs. You lose money, you lose time. So that's a little bit different approach, right? So it's basically holding community and staff accountable at the same time so that we can deliver a faster, more effective project.
And
That
also
sounds
to
awesome.
clarify,
Thank you.
yeah, to clarify, that work session is at 4 o'clock on May 9th if you're interested. And Stephen already gave you some tidbits about that already, but there will be more details.
All right. Other questions of Shasheen? And we will be getting the very specific projects and the order in which they come. I'm going to say this in the Greenway Committee report, but I will say that it came up in the Greenway Committee that concern about Walnut Creek as the need to move that forward as one of the oldest greenways in one of the most in a more challenged area, and it needs to be, hopefully before May 9th, it'll be moved up on the schedule. All right, further presentation? Okay, next. All right, what we do. So I see Charles Craig coming up, and I want to really thank Stephen Bentley for bringing to us the opportunity to learn more about the different arms of the Parks Department, because we learned about what happens in community centers. I'm still remembering those numbers of chairs and tables that were in the all the community centers, and we learned about aquatics programs. And so we have another What We Do presentation coming up. So Mr. Craig, if you'll tell us about that.
All right, good evening to our chair, members of the board. I am Charles Craig, one of your assistant directors for Raleigh Parks. I'm very excited to introduce to some and present to others our horticulture program within Raleigh Parks. We're super excited to share. There's a couple colleagues with me today. I'm going to let them introduce themselves, and then you will hear from my city horticulturalist, Mr. Neil Weisenbaker. But first, if Jeff will come, followed by Seth.
Well, good evening. It's good to be with you this evening. My name is Jeff Bryant. I am official job as athletic field and aquatics maintenance manager. And since Charles moved up into the assistant director position, I'm filling in for him on an interim basis as the park superintendent. So it's great to be with you tonight.
Hello, everyone. My name is Seth Klopp, and I am currently serving as the interim park superintendent of grounds over park districts 1 through 6, the cemetery division, and also with Neil as the horticulturalist. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Neil.
Great.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. I'm Neil Weisenbaker. I am the new city horticulturist. Very nice to meet you all. And just to break the ice a little bit, I'm going to distribute a little party favor for you all this evening. These are, if you'll take the whole bag and just pass them around, these are Tillandsia, which is a native plant from Florida. It's an air plant, and it's just a little favor for you guys to take home to your house. You can hang it in your windowsill with a little twist of wire or something like that. Looks really cool, easy to take care of. If you would like to water it, you can take that plant and dip it in a bowl of water, in and out, just like that. 1, 2. Take it out of the water, put it back in your windowsill, and let it sit for another week, and do it again the following week, and it'll grow just as happy as it can be. That's all you have to do, no soil required. Little insider tip, if you use a water-soluble fertilizer with it in that dip, it'll flower for you. Cool. Well, anyway, I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Neil Weisenbaker. I run the horticulture program for Parks and Natural Resources Division. I would like to discuss with you my program. I have a staff of 1 full-timer. We are a small program, but we have a big impact, as you'll see in this presentation. I think I can correct that. Yep. So when I took this position a year ago, and it was just 1 year ago, I asked my supervisor, Charles Craig, at the time, I said, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And he empowered me to do the research and learn how the horticulture program supports parks and natural resources. So thank you, Charles, for that charge. And through that process, I engaged in a series of interviews with different stakeholders to determine how the horticulture program can best serve our division. Throughout this presentation, I will go into these goals that we developed from those listening sessions, and they are to produce plants. That's #1 respondent that we got. Engage the community, develop staff, manage our pesticide use, and develop new initiatives. Throughout this program, I will go through each of those goals and describe each one in detail. I am based out of Marsh Creek Maintenance Facility in our greenhouse and nursery. The original greenhouse and nursery was actually built in 1978. This is not that greenhouse. This was refurbished in 2010 through a grant from the Sustainability Project, and it's a state-of-the-art facility. It's all double-walled polycarbonate panels. The whole thing can run off of a smartphone, if you can believe that. All of the automated fans, cooling cells, automated shutters, you name it. This is a state-of-the-art greenhouse facility, and we're honored to have it. So I mentioned plant production. There we go. Each year, we produce 50,000 annual plants for our park system. Those annual plants go into our community centers, in the fronts of community centers, or at signs like sign beds to add seasonal color to our landscapes. We also grow various perennials, shrubs, trees. We also grow vegetable starts for our Mordecai plant sale that's this weekend, as well as the Joslyn plant sale that's this weekend. And those vegetable starts are also supporting our budding initiative to help with community gardens across the city. We also grow milkweed, and I'll get into that in a little bit. And we grow plants for green stormwater infrastructure as well as display plants. We need a lot of help to get this done. We can't do it by our staff of one with 2 part-timers. We enlist people to help, and this is what we call our plug day. And some of our Parks and Greenway Advisory Board members were good to visit us and help us with this just recently. And so what you'll see here is we'll enlist the help of other departments, other staff to help us plant the plugs for our 50,000 plant annual production. It's a great excuse to have a team building. So if any of you guys would like to participate, you're more than welcome. Here actually is Miss Ashcraft telling Drew Gentry, one of our senior gardeners, how to do the job properly. And I think, but seriously, thank you, Marcia, Carol, and Beverly for contributing to our plug day. It was very helpful. We also reach out to other departments. This is actually the Performing Arts Center coming in to help do a team building for them, and then they helped us plant some plants as well. So it's a nice dovetail into that. This is our milkweed production. Milkweed is the sole host plant for the monarch butterfly. And in 2021, Mayor Baldwin actually made the Monarch Pledge to support monarch conservation in the city of Raleigh. And we support that through production of milkweed plants and through our monarch way stations. And I'll talk about that a little bit more later on. But it's a real sight to see when we grow this milkweed. These are monarch caterpillars. They come in, I don't know where they come in, but they appear. And they cover our plants that we grow. And this is a way that we can help the monarch butterfly with its annual migration from North America to South Florida and to Mexico. It's a real sight to see. There is the actual monarch pledge and the monarch butterfly. As they flock to our greenhouses, they also flock to our monarch way stations around the city, and you can witness that if you visit them. We also do plant production for displays, such as special events. This was for the Performing Arts Center renaming ceremony when they became the Martin Marietta Center. There you are. You can see that their renaming ceremony. And we also did a display for the City Council swearing-in ceremony as well. I would like, sorry? And the Fletcher Awards, of course, yes. So many special events, lots of staff and other departments will reach out to us for display plants that we grow in our greenhouse that we'll then bring out and artfully present to them to make the experience that much more special. I mentioned I have a staff of one, and so if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to show you this video that was made by RTN as a What We Do series, and I'd just like to share that with you today.
Hi, I'm John Emerson, and this is what I do.
If you've been to a City of Raleigh park, you've seen the beautiful flowers and plants that help make these places special. Ever wonder where those lush gardens got their start?
These greenhouses have been present for the past 11 years, and prior to that, greenhouses have been here providing the park system with plants for decades.
John is greenhouse and nursery manager for Raleigh Parks. Inside the greenhouses, seeds and seedlings are nurtured and repotted until they are ready to launch. Each plant, tree, and shrub is earmarked for a specific destination. Flats are carefully loaded onto a truck and transported to a Raleigh park. When they do land, there are many hands ready and waiting to get them in the soil. Sometimes a plant grows so well that it needs to be separated into smaller clumps to be replanted elsewhere where they have room to grow.
Plants are they're some of the most fascinating organisms on the planet. So the greenhouses produce between 35 and 40,000 plants for the Parks Department, including around 17,000 for the fall annual planting and around 20,000 for the spring annual planting.
It takes a lot of care to produce all those pansies, snapdragons, rudbeckia, and vinca. According to John, the plants tell him what they need.
So what I listen for when the plants are talking to me, I look for whether or not they need more water, if they need some fertilizer, if they need a change in environment, more heat, more cool, if they need to be transplanted, or sometimes if they just don't like their neighbor. The reason why I do this is because I really love plants.
John, along with park staff and volunteers and an increasing body of scientific research, all tell us the same thing. It's good for our health to be in nature.
Please take a moment whenever you are in any of our parks to look around and enjoy the beauty.
When I had the opportunity to take this role as horticulturist, we were able to hire the manager as well, and it's been a good, successful program. I'm really proud of that. If I can make this work now.
Hi,
Okay.
I'm John Emerson.
That's not gonna work.
If you
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Hi,
Nope.
I'm John Emerson.
There we go. There it is. One more. Okay. So I'm just really proud of that opportunity to be able to provide that, and it's very meaningful to us. Another meaningful piece of the horticulture program is engagement. And so we table at different events throughout the city, throughout the year, to tell our story in parks. So this might be at Pollinator Week, Earth Day, through volunteerism, Falling for Local, Sunflower Fest, and other events like that. So you'll see us on Friday at Earth Day at Dix Park. And it's just a real great opportunity. This is at Moore Square, where we did a Pollinator Week. We gave away plants that we grew, pollinator plants, milkweeds, and that kind of thing, to increase awareness of the plight of pollinators in the city. And the children are very interested in what we do. We like to take the opportunity to educate the youth about what we're doing and the public at large. And also our volunteers. So here is Ruth and Angela, who got a world-class tour of the greenhouse just recently. They are some of our fervent volunteers at Fletcher Park, and so we're really, and at the Raleigh Rose Garden, and we're really appreciative of their service. Jorge here has been with us since 2011, and he washes pots for us. He is a member of a group called Learning Services. These are individuals with traumatic brain injuries, and they come and give us a hand at our greenhouse. So again, we just need lots of help, and we get it, and so we're really appreciative of that. And this is us again engaging those volunteers to plant those plants in our parks. That's Fletcher Park. Another aspect of our program is staff development. And this includes, we have 45 licensed pesticide applicators with the city Parks and Natural Resources Division, and we help to provide the continuing education credits that they need in order to keep their license, in addition to other trainings. So for example, we might send staff to Green and Growing in Greensboro, or to Turf Field Day at NC State, or color trials at JC Ralston, just to name a few of some of our continuing education efforts. We also conduct in-house trainings. This is a training that we just had for our gardeners, and this is in green stormwater infrastructure maintenance. And so that was a very positive training that we were able to host. We also hold gardeners meetings on a monthly basis, and that is a time for the gardeners to get together and exchange knowledge and talk about best practices for what they do. Another one of my program goals is to manage our pesticide policy. This policy dictates who can apply what type of pesticides and where. It's a departmental operating instruction that was founded by Lisa Wallace, former city horticulturist, and it's governed by our core team. This is a model program that we have developed that other municipalities frequently reach out to us to get a copy of. Not only other municipalities, but also other departments within the city, such as transportation and stormwater. One of the things that the policy does is establish who is a qualified pesticide applicator. And there's 3 levels to their training. The first is our citywide level. This includes in-house training. That's 8 hours of classroom training with 2 field exercises and ongoing education. The state level, they have to be licensed by the North Carolina Department of Agriculture. They have to pass an exam and they have to continue their continuing education. And at the federal level, they have to achieve HAZWOPER status through OSHA, which is an 8-hour training with an annual refresher. That's hazardous materials and emergency response, HAZWOPER. In addition to the pesticide management policy, we track and inventory all of our pesticides. So we purchase those products and we approve the products that can be purchased, we purchase them, and then we allocate those out to our qualified applicators. We're able to track all of our products to the ounce, and we know exactly where they are applied, when they are applied, and who applied them, and at what rate they used.
Can I ask a question about that? Do you have a goal of minimizing use of pesticides, and can you track
Yes.
decrease in?
Our pesticide policy lays out that we intend to reduce pesticide use from year to year. We do that on a per area basis. In addition to that, we also seek to find the least toxic, least harmful chemicals possible to achieve the goal. And that's why our pesticide policy is managed by a core team, and that core team deliberates every new chemical that's introduced and deliberates whether or not we'll allow it. So we might balance that pesticide use with environmental concerns and worker safety concerns before we will approve or disapprove it.
And can you talk about concerns for children in parks?
Absolutely. Yep. Thank you for that. We do not, as a matter of policy, apply pesticides in any playgrounds, or if they're in a use area, we keep them minimized as much as possible. In addition to that, when applications happen, we use a system of signage that indicates to the public that pesticides are being applied and that they should stay out of the area. In addition to that, the applicators have a spotter who is there to protect the public during the application process. And that is all set out in our policy. And like I said, it's a departmental operating instruction and the staff follow it. The last component of the horticulture program is our new initiatives. So for that, I'm going to talk about 3 different new initiatives, and they are our pollinator program, our community gardens, and our green stormwater infrastructure program. I mentioned that the mayor had signed the mayor's Monarch Pledge, and that includes the creation of Monarch Way stations throughout the city. We currently have 32 stations. These are signed landscapes that are managed in a special way for monarch butterflies. That is, these are the 32 stations across the city, by the way. But that is, we provide food, shelter, and protection for monarch butterflies in those stations.
Again, can I go back and ask a question on that?
Yes.
Plans for expanding? I mean, that you've got a lot, but there's more.
Yes. Every year we expand, we add new stations, and I mean, frankly, we probably have already added a couple of this year. So every year we're always adding more. It has been a successful program that I think the public sees. It's visible. I think we're looking to expand the visibility of it even more by building on that success of the visibility of that program.
Is that map available online or somewhere where you can look and see where they are?
We do have a website, the Pollinator and Wildlife Program. If you go to the city website and search for it, there should be at least a list at that point.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I'll have a moment at the end to take all of the questions. That's fine. In addition, we also are supporting community gardens. This is Raleigh City strategic plan. It's initiative 1.3 to encourage urban agriculture throughout the city. And I sit on a committee to research the barriers and opportunities for community gardens in the city. And we have been doing learning sessions across the city. This is at the Highland United Methodist Church off of Ridge Road with Cullen Whitley, and we're learning about his program there. In addition, we're having our first community garden at Barwell Road, and this was a community day that we just had last weekend. And you can see again the greenhouse is providing plants for that public event as a giveaway, as a means of fostering conversation and spreading awareness. And then our last program that we're involved with is the Green Stormwater Infrastructure Program. And this is a partnership with Raleigh Stormwater as well as Transportation. And it is Strategic Initiative 1.2 to encourage green stormwater infrastructure throughout the city. What that is a means of slowing down stormwater as it's generated from impervious surface across our city, and putting it, instead of putting it into pipes, which then go into the rivers, but putting it into depressions that can be planted into rain gardens and bioretention to allow that water to filter and seep slowly into our groundwater table. And it's a really interesting partnership between Raleigh Parks and Stormwater, and we are really excited about this. This is that picture there is a rain garden at the Raleigh Rose Garden. And you can see it's beautiful, and it serves a function to mitigate stormwater. So we're really excited about that initiative.
There's also one on Glenwood Avenue at St. Mary's.
Absolutely, a brand new one at Glenwood and St. Mary's.
I have to say, I saw one yesterday at Halifax, and that staff showed me. They're like, "Oh, have you seen the rain garden or the BMP back here?" And I forgot it was back there. It was nicer than the landscaping at my house. I was like
yeah.
These are professionals. Of course, they should be better than a drought.
Yeah, and I'd like to jump on that point and just say we did have Charlotte Mecklenburg here yesterday, and they did bring their horticulturist with them, and I talked to him, and he's a really great guy, but he's kind of like one person in that whole organization. We are supported by like 45 gardeners that all work in our horticulture program to do work across the city. And it's really valuable and very special. And I don't think there's other parks departments across the nation that can compare. So I really appreciate that aspect of our operation.
The community gardens, do you help communities set these gardens up, or are you just a resource for them, or how does that work?
We have only just begun to learn how to do community gardens, and we're figuring that out right now. Just begun, but the first one is under construction at Barwell Road.
Okay, that's
we have issued an RFP to find a community partner. So we have the power of real estate, right? We have lands all across it, but through the council initiative that Neil and others are working on, we got money through the American Recovery Act, ARPA money, and we are going to bring on nonprofit partner or partners to build them in parks for us, and then that's a community engagement way. So our gardeners will be there from a background support, but really we want the community and the nonprofit to really elevate their capacity.
Do you all have school groups come and help you all?
All the time.
And middle school age?
Yes.
Too? Okay.
So we do this really fun thing that we pot washing. And so we'll get a really hot day, and we'll get, so being part of our sustainability initiative is we don't want to buy plastic for this 50,000 annuals that process through our greenhouse every year. So we actually wash a lot of our pots. And this is something that a market nursery cannot do, but we can as a component of the city operation. So these kids will come in and they'll get a nice hot day, and they'll get big tubs of water, and they'll wash those pots, and they'll get the hoses out, and it's a lot of fun.
How would someone go about setting up a volunteer opportunity for a group or a corporate event or something like that?
Sure. You can always reach out to our volunteer services program, which are available online if you search for volunteer services on the city website, and you can set one up. We're open for business.
Yeah, and that would be Mary Owens, who will be at the Fletcher Awards, or Olinda. I can't think of Olinda's.
Yeah, and Rachel. Olinda and Rachel, yes.
Rachel. Other questions? That was great, and it really was a lot of fun to take these little plants that were the size of my little finger and stick my little finger in and make a little hole and then move them to 3 by 3 inch pots. So we had a good time that day.
And those plants you planted will be going out May 1st. So they are already 4 times the size of when you planted them. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Neil.
Thank you.
All right. So a whole nother switching gears. There's so much going on in the city and in our parks. And thank you to Kate Pierce, who is going to give us an update on Dix Park, and particularly the Play Plaza, probably, or
I'll mention that.
You'll
Yeah.
mention that?
I first want to say, as a site that benefits from our horticulture program, the work they do and the diversity of work is amazing. And I just want to say thank y'all, because it makes a difference for us as staff, but also for the visitor experience. It's really amazing to see what they do every day. All right, so I am here to provide an update. Kate Pierce with Dix Park. Provide a project update on a number of initiatives that are going on. This is all of our current projects that are happening at the park. And I'll just touch on these briefly. So we are under construction with the Gibson Play Plaza. We've got a construction cam on dixpark.org, so you could log in right now and see what's happening. Probably not a lot because everyone's home, but we are under construction. Things are starting to come out of the ground, which is exciting. So we've spent the past 7 months doing a lot of subsurface work, but now you're seeing things actually come out of the ground. So it's an exciting moment in the creation of the Gibson Play Plaza. In addition, the Conservancy is running the renovation of 3 historic stone houses. So we've got 2 very active construction sites that are going to be transformative at major entry points into the park. So the stone houses are also under construction. In terms of planning and feasibility, the Rocky Branch project continues. We will look to come back to this group probably late summer, early fall with an update on the Rocky Branch project and some visuals. We've just been doing a lot of survey, so not a lot of exciting things to show you, although it is a critical piece of the Rocky Branch work. The projects I really wanted to focus on are 2 planning level projects that you have been introduced to before, but we actually have some details on. So first is the Cultural Interpretive Plan. Last year, we received funding directly from the state of North Carolina as a state-directed grant, and we were awarded a National Endowment of Humanities grant to kickstart a project to develop a cultural interpretive plan for Dix Park. And really what this is, it's looking at the long history of this campus and how can we tell the stories of the past to current and future park visitors. And these stories are complex, and there are lots of different cultural groups involved, from Native Americans to the enslaved population that was at Dix, to the owner population that was at Dix, to mental health patients, to employees. And how do we really tell these stories in a culturally sensitive way to reconnect people to the history of this place while we're also creating the park of the future? We have a couple of local examples of interpretation. These are very sign-based, so we know that the Past to Present exhibit at John Chavis has gone up. And then we're also looking, you can't disconnect cultural history and natural history. So how do these 2 things come together and manifest in the Cultural Interpretive Plan? And what I wanted to share are 2 major things. One is we're doing a lot of focused public engagement with groups that were directly connected to the history of the park. So working with our Native American communities, working with descendants from the plantation era, and also working with mental health people that were impacted directly by the closure of the hospital, or were patients at the hospital, or were family members of patients. So really trying to do a focused outreach to the people that have the lived experience connected to this place. And then we'll bring it to a broader audience of folks later this year. But in those early discussions, there have been some really interesting emerging themes that I just wanted to point out to everyone. One is around harm and healing. So a lot of people, especially for former patients, former patient families, This was a place that they sought refuge, that a lot of people were helped, but some people had really horrible experiences when it was an active hospital. So how do we talk about people that were saved and their lives changed for the better, but also people that had a really traumatic experience, because both of those existed at Dix Park. One of the other really interesting items that has come up is this idea of creative survival, or how individuals that were directly linked to the past of the park have come together in the future of the park. So thinking about these groups as we move forward. Memorialization is obviously a key theme. Marginalization and inclusion, a lot of the voices that you would think are of the people that have been directly impacted by the park's history are those people that are living on the marginal, are marginalized in society. One of the themes that came up too that I think is so fascinating is this idea of finding healing in nature and caring for the land. The hospital does not provide active mental health services anymore. Its transformation as a park has the ability to provide wellness to a whole new generation. And so those connections between healing, wellness, the past, and the future are one of the emerging themes that have become from these stakeholder discussions. And the other really interesting thing is the many histories and common history. I think the most telling here is that we've had a kind of a beautiful relationship come out of this work between a descendant of the enslaved Hunter family and a descendant of the owner Hunter family at Dix Park. And so they're working together on common histories and storytelling for their descendant projects. And how do we memorialize and tell those stories in the future of the park? So these are just the emerging themes with the Cultural Interpretive Plan. And our next step is some very focused storytelling workshops with former patients, patient families, for employee families, and then looking to our educator communities here in the region, the public history programs, and also our legacy committee and community committee to come together to metabolize some of these early findings and how it's going to inform how we take this to the public. We are planning to be at all of our major events, including Juneteenth in the Intertribal Powwow. And so we think those cultural events are going to be really important to informing the next steps of this planning process. So that's where we are on this piece of work. I'll pause here before moving into the building study, which is a little bit different.
Questions? You know, one thing that relates to this that I hear sometimes in the community, people say, oh, you know, Dix Park, we should have kept it as a mental health hospital. And what I try to remember to share with people is that that wasn't what the option was. Dix had already moved to Butner, but so it was really a choice of it being a conglomeration of 40-story buildings or a park. So there's often that false dichotomy that exists, and I think it's important for you all to all articulate that as well, because as people in the community, if it wasn't a park, it would not have been a mental health hospital.
Right.
It would that ship had already sailed years before. So it's so important, and I love that line in there of that finding healing in nature and caring for the land. That's really awesome.
A lot more to come here, but I did want to introduce that the project has kicked off, but it's a very exciting and I think an important critical piece of work to the future of the park. So from a very emotional, cultural project to much more of a technical piece of work, we have the building and site analysis. And just to kind of baseline set with everybody, the city of Raleigh owns the entire 308 acres. We own all of the real estate on campus, which is 80 structures, over 1 million square feet of building space. The majority of that building space is leased back to the Department of Health and Human Services, and they have a lease on the property until July 24, 2025. What happens when the state leaves and the city inherits all of that real estate? And that's the study that we're doing right now to understand the condition of buildings, the condition of infrastructure systems, how those potentially could be reused, what's going to be demolished in the future of the park. And just to put this in perspective, the state of North Carolina currently spends $10.5 million annually on basic maintenance and operations of the Dix campus. That's a lot of money. So this study is looking at some key questions. what is the current state of buildings and infrastructure? For the buildings that we do want to reuse, what are some potential options? How could the park be built out and phased? And then what are the costs and revenue options for to cover the expenses of the park? So a couple of things, and these are not going to be surprising to folks, but there are a number of existing building challenges. The state has not had the resources to keep these buildings in a state that is even meeting what we would consider current Raleigh building code. So we have assessed every building and documented what it is going to take to improve those buildings, to bring them up to code, to replace the HVAC and mechanical systems. And we have 3D models now of all of the buildings on campus. It has been a labor of love, and it's the largest spreadsheets I have ever seen, but we now have documentation of every single building and the condition of every single building on campus. And not to be forgotten, we've got a legacy system of utilities out there. So basically the main takeaway is everything is old and everything needs to be replaced. So we've got water, sewer, thermal infrastructure. It is all extremely old, and it will need to be replaced to serve the future of the park. So with that knowledge, we looked again at what buildings should be reused and what buildings should be demolished. And the idea here is that we want to demolish a lot of buildings and turn it back into green space. So for example, everything on the western side of campus, the western side of campus being where Dreamville was or where the flower field is, we want to take down every single building on that side of campus. That does a couple things for us. One, we'd be able to cut off all of the infrastructure to half of the campus. And so we wouldn't have to absorb those costs. And two, that is already where our nature escape is. So how wonderful will it be to expand the green space on the western side of the campus by taking down all of those buildings?
Does that include the Adams building?
Yes.
Okay. I used to work there.
Yeah. Yes. All of those lovely 1930, 40, 50s brick structures. The other side of campus, there's a couple of challenges. One, there is a National Register Historic District with a number of contributing buildings. And so we're mindful that some of the history and legacy of this place is tied to the building infrastructure. So we're focusing the idea of adaptive reuse on those buildings that are in that National Register Historic District that have the most potential for reuse to benefit the park and benefit the public. But if we're able to do this, we take down about 670,000 square feet of building, and our consultants are like, do it all at once. So whoever gets to push the button that day to implode all of those buildings, no. But the idea here is that it'll be over time cheaper and have less public impact to have an enabling phase of total demolition as compared to an incremental demolition phase over time. So for the buildings that we want to keep and reuse, what are some potential uses for that? We are looking at a number of different things. We're going to need City of Raleigh operations. So where will we house our own horticulture team, right, in the future? And where will programming and operations staff live? We're going to need maintenance and operation space to operate the park. We then love the idea of having cultural institutions, nonprofits also having a presence at Dix Park. And we've received about 21 letters of interest from groups that want to locate at the park. So we're developing a process to review those about who potentially could locate there. At the other end of the spectrum is the idea of working with partners that can bring something like a concession or a restaurant to the hilltop that also has a revenue positive impact. A lot of these buildings are really old and are going to be extremely expensive to upfit. So we're going to need some partners that actually have some of the means to upfit those. Also, with a park of 308 acres, you need places for people to get ice cream and iced tea. And so we're looking at that entire spectrum of partners in the adaptive reuse opportunities. And this is just one idea of where those different uses could be located. Here, I will note that number 5, I said we are demolishing everything, so this map needs to be updated. We want to take this building away too. But here you can see the color code of the idea that everything in green would be city operated, everything in yellow would be a cultural institution or nonprofit partner, and red are things that we're thinking about with the Dix Park Conservancy. And then blue, there's this idea of a partner, potentially a hospitality partner, that could take advantage of the original hospital building for a hospitality use. So all of this is fed updates to the master plan, which includes additional demolition, identification of buildings for park operations, identification of buildings for hospitality use, and the removal of additional buildings, especially along Lake Wheeler Road. From there, we have updated our phasing plan, which looks at focusing our energies where we're doing all the work today in the Phase 1 area, moving across the park for all of the recreation area. I love coming to these meetings and hearing public comment because I'm like, yes, turf fields. Those are things we need to think about. Yes, store it. Obviously, we don't have water here, but active recreation, sports courts in the yellow area, and then the blue area is still the most ambiguous. Originally, that was the area identified for a future amphitheater, but we know that there's conversations on if Red Hat's going to relocate downtown, what are the amphitheater or performance venue needs? So we'll continue to evaluate that in park phasing. And now the fun part. So in addition to thinking through all the technical analysis of buildings, we're also trying to figure out our financial model. We're studying models from across the nation that look at a variety of funding sources. If you think about Seattle, the majority of their funding is public funding. Compared to the Presidio in San Francisco, the majority of their funding comes through real estate revenues. So what is the pie chart for Raleigh? And that's exactly what we're working on right now. What will we be able to garner in public funding? What we'll be able to raise in terms of donations with the Dix Park Conservancy? What we'll be able to earn in terms of concession and space rentals. And then the big unknown is this idea of value capture. And what I want to introduce here is just a couple of notes. One is, and I think everyone's probably aware of this, the amount of real estate assemblage and development adjacent to Dix Park is huge. We are currently modeling all of the areas adjacent to Dix Park, and at full build-out, it's about $5 billion in new tax revenue coming towards the edges of the park. Now, that's in year 20 whatever, but there's a ton of real estate development happening along the edges. So one of the things we're investigating is the idea if there are developments locating here, could the city develop a tool like a municipal service district to capture revenues that would then go back to supporting the park? In a lot of the conversations our consultants have had with these developers, they said one of the main reasons they are building these projects is because of the co-location next to Dix Park, and they see it as their development's amenity. So if the park's creating value, shouldn't that value help to go back and support the park in the long term? So we're looking at a number of different tools to understand what is viable in terms of financial sustainability, what is the financial model for the park, and I think that'll probably be a future meeting with y'all just on that subject. So next steps from this, we're focused on a couple of things. One is building demolition and stabilization. For me, July 25 felt like eons in the future. It's right around the corner. And so how are we going to be prepared when the state turns over those keys to immediately move forward? We're also looking at adaptive reuse next steps. So we'll come back to this group with the idea of potentially an RFP for some uses, and also the refinement and continued development of the financial model that is really looking to balance the cost and expense of operating a park like this for the city. So that's a lot of information in a very short amount of time, but I'm happy to answer questions about, yes?
Yeah, I have a question. So you showed a few slides back photographs of potential buildings that would be very close to Dix. Not these ones on the campus, but the ones that, these.
Yes.
Okay. So it hurts my heart to think of being at Dick's and looking at that.
Yep.
Where those are not biophilic cities. I mean, structures, buildings. I really, really would like to see some standards set for the buildings that are going to be within close eye shot of Dick's to have terraces, rooftop gardens and terraces and architectural features that have some relationship to the natural world, and not just what we have now, a lot of glass and metal and hardscapes that are towering above. When I was over at Dick's earlier in the week, I was standing on the deck at Flower Cottage, and here you got these beautiful trees and these tall, hard buildings.
Yeah.
We can do better.
Yeah, I would suggest you sign up for public comment at Appearance Commission. But I mean, to be honest,
Just
yeah.
at the Appearance Commission
Yeah.
before coming to this meeting.
Yeah,
And I did
a
say
lot of
something.
these developments have been approved and are governed by our UDO, and they're outside of the park, so the park has little control, but that is exactly, I think you are voicing a concerns that a lot of our community is having about the development adjacent to the park.
I'm glad to know I'm not alone.
Other questions? Ms. Love?
So I think you mentioned there were 21 groups that had already sent notes or letters.
Yes.
How did they know that, and when will other people have that opportunity?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's unsolicited. So they called and they were like, hey, I want to move into that building. And I said, we're not ready yet. Send me a letter of interest, and when we're ready, we'll reconnect with you. So there is going to be a public process where we're proactive. We've been completely reactive to date.
Jingwen?
Hi. Another thought when looking at all the buildings, they looks very expensive buildings.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, is there a option for the affordable housing to provide for the community?
So a couple of things, and Bob's probably very familiar with all of this because this is his neighborhood. There's been a study called the Dick's Area Edge Study that looked at trying to preserve affordability and trying to avoid displacement of residents. A lot of the residents of this area live in renter-occupied, so it's a lot of renter-occupied. And so, people have been, to be quite honest, people have been sitting on this property for decades looking for redevelopment opportunities. Okay. I think the city is trying to be as proactive as possible about affordable housing, but a lot of it is done.
Other questions?
When we purchased this land from the state, did they agree to any sort of sharing cost of liabilities, like these buildings that we're having to take down, or any of the utility stuff?
That would have been awesome.
Okay.
No, the only shared expense was the remediation of a coal pit that we shared expense in, and it was called Area 5N. It was one of our biggest environmental remediation projects. That has been cleaned up. That was the only cost share identified in the purchase agreement.
Where was that?
Next to the steam plant.
Down near the railroad tracks.
Down near the railroad tracks.
Yeah, right in front of the tanks,
Yeah.
where the large tanks are.
My first week on the job, the project had started, and I was down in the pit, and I didn't watch Parks and Recreation. And I guess like one of those video, right? Like she's down in the pit. And so, yes, anyway, that project right next to the railroad tracks was our biggest environmental cleanup, but was the only thing that we got cost share from with the state.
Can you? I know that the new Department of Health and Human Services building is under construction on
Yes.
Blue Ridge Road at Reedy Creek, and there are cranes. Are they on schedule for finishing by October 2025?
Stephen and I are meeting with the Department of Health and Human Services and Department of Administration probably in June. I feel fairly confident they're going to probably come for us for some sort of extension of their lease. I think it'll be a short-term extension, but I think they will ask for something to help facilitate their move.
Lindsay, did you have a?
Yeah, I'm wondering, could you help us understand the difference of like where your purview is and then Dick's Conservancy?
Sure.
Since I see that you're the executive director, but it's
That's
a
my
lot
new
of
title, right?
confusion.
Yep. So we have a memorandum of agreement that governs our relationship. And to simplify it, the city of Raleigh is the owner and operator of Dix Park, which means we're responsible for all the planning and development, we're responsible for all the maintenance, and we're responsible for all the operations. The Dix Park Conservancy exists with primarily two roles. One is they raise private money, so they have raised about $69 million to date to support the park, and they advocate Capital A, which the city doesn't engage in. So they work to build political will and public momentum to support the park. We have also engaged them to help us with certain projects. So for example, they renovated the Flower Cottage at their own expense. They renovated the chapel at their own expense and have turned, for example, the chapel back to the city for operations. So based on what we feel like is probably going to be the most efficient or effective or cost-effective delivery of a project, we evaluate who should do that. The city, for example, is completely in charge of Gibson Play Plaza. We're delivering that project. The Conservancy is delivering the Stonehouses project. So we look to see which partner is going to be best at delivering those projects and memorialize that in agreements approved by council.
Kate, and if I could add, a lot of the events, most of the events that are put on that are non-ticketed, like Dreamville, the Conservancy pays for.
Yep.
So it's extraordinary generalists for Falling for Local, the movie nights, the adult recess, all of those would not have been done unless the Conservancy or the scale and complexity of it. They basically give us grants and we put on free public programs, which helps reduce that barrier of people saying, I don't want to go there because that's a hospital. So they found it important to provide free programs to everybody across Raleigh. The other is 6 or 7 figures in grants. They have lobbied the state for grants. They apply for grants that we can't because they are a nonprofit. And then those grants, they're a pass-through. They get the grant, then they give the money to us. So.
And to clarify, Ms. Pierce is a city employee.
Yes. Sorry. Yes, I am a Parks employee.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Kate is correct. In Southwest, we have put many hours of study and trying to find the best answers for the area we know is changing. And some of our preferences would be towards planned developments, which are much easier to, if you get it on the paper, you're going to get it on the project. Some of the rezonings that were shown have not been approved at this point. They're still under negotiation. We're looking at trying to make sure things that are not just allowed, but they're included. And somewhere in the past, we have passed rezonings where things were allowed and they never occurred that were very desirable. So some of that's still in negotiation, and it's not easy. Trying to preserve history, community, walkability, environment, trees, towards something that we will all be proud of is somewhat of a task. Yeah. So we're working together on that. Thank you.
Other questions from board members? You did not mention Lake Wheeler Road.
Yes.
And that is a Parks bond project. We did get a transportation
Yep. So the Parks bond included $21 million for Lake Wheeler Road. That project is being managed by Raleigh Transportation, and they are in, I think, 70% design of that right now. So it's coming along.
I have things that I say, if Kate's happy, I'm happy.
But
many parts.
Lake Wheeler Road it is funded through the Parks Bond project being managed by City of Raleigh, and we're very closely coordinated on that. For example, we had numerous meetings about trees this week.
Just point out, although it's perceived as purely a transportation project, it's building 3 entrances, multiple greenway and multi-use paths along the park. So it's basically creating the park's edge, which we really don't have right now. It's kind of undulating.
Yeah, Lake Wheeler Road is a tough road.
It's a very tough road.
Got a lot of hills and is very narrow. Can you tell us a little bit more about the size of Gibson Play Plaza and just update us a little bit on that?
The Gibson Play Plaza is an 18.5 acre project that is under construction. And I will just bring up something real quick so I have a visual. But it is going to have every kid's dream of fun play. So if you go to dixpark.org, park planning, all of our current projects are here, including the Gibson Play Plaza, which includes an overview of the site plan, which I should be able to click on, of course, and the construction cam. So it's still light outside, y'all. And so the Gibson Play Plaza, the heart of it is centered around play for all. So it's being designed for all abilities. It's going to feature water play and adventure play. We were talking to the playground manufacturer and working with our parks team, and we're going to need about 20,000 square feet of laydown space to bring our play towers over from Germany to assemble before they come on site. So just think, I mean, that's a huge amount of space that will be dedicated to the play features here. It also includes a picnic grove, a restored historic house, a civic plaza, lots of gardens and plant material going in. It's a pretty amazing design that I can't wait to see come out of the ground.
And construction will be complete approximately?
The construction, we're looking like it's Q1 of 2025.
With the plaza, would there be any unique designs in regards to like accessibility, or is it like the basic standards for ADA compliance?
No, we actually hired, I'm not going to remember their name, a children's accessibility play consultant that basically, so for example, our play structures are wheelchair accessible. And so kids, it's designed for all. So like the idea is that, God, what is that company's name? Anyway, that kids of all abilities, mobilities will be able to experience. The other really cool thing, a lot of times playgrounds are really loud and kids with sensory, they don't want to be screaming next to the kid that's having a great time. So there's a quieter part to the park. It's called the sensory maze. That's going to be basically in a garden-like setting with high hedges. And so we've really tried to think about lots of different abilities and experiences so that everyone can have a place to enjoy.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions?
Other questions. It is, and if anybody has been to Cary lately and look at that, I was there with the folks from Dix Park, but then I took a friend back and we climbed on the on the picnic table to look over the fence, and you got to go see the Cardinals there. Just the bomb.
Cardi A and Cardi B.
Yeah. And but that park, which will open in the fall, just keep in mind is about 7.5 acres.
Yeah.
And it has an amphitheater area, and it has a lot of different features, and so we'll be more than twice as big. So that's just a good piece of something to keep in mind as you go and check it out.
And to plug something that was mentioned earlier, Earth Day celebration tomorrow, 5 to 8 p.m., followed by Wally at Flowers Field at the park with the environmental awards also. So if you don't have anything else going on, it should be a beautiful night.
We'll be there. All right. Well, thank you very much. You answered a lot of questions and gave us a lot to look forward to.
Next time I'll bring a prize. Y'all all did it.
Hey, the prize will be when we see it all open. That will be fantastic. Right. All right. Approval of the last meeting minutes. We didn't get minutes, but we are so. I just meant to start out the meeting today to say that welcome back to Giovanna Harris. Yeah. We have missed you. had so much public comment that it threw me off in the beginning.
I told them they had to wait until April.
And we have missed you, but we are glad to see you back and looking awesome. And so just appreciate you. And so thank you. So minutes can wait. All right. Director's report.
Make sure I get my microphone. Everybody gets their magazine, right? Do you get your magazine? Do you see who's on the cover? It's email. It's.
We get it
Oh,
electronically.
it's our Raleigh Parks Department on the national cover of the magazine. So it's highlighted our electrical fleet.
In hard copy, but it doesn't come in hard copy.
It comes electronically? Okay, we get a few of them upstairs at the office, so we have to keep at the front table. So I'll circulate this around, but it's their conservation issue, so they have different focuses on each issue, and it highlighted the work that Charles's team in the Parks Division is doing on the electrification of all of our equipment in our fleet. So. In Happy Earth Week, we just heard from Kate about the Dix Park Earth Day, which is tomorrow night. On Saturday, we have a STEAM event at Roberts Park, which starts at 10:30 in the morning. We heard from Neil on the plant sale, which is really exciting, both at Joslyn Garden and at Mordecai. So lots of events going on. I'll highlight a few things, and then I'll turn it over to Giovanna. We've been awarded a couple of grants by our great planning staff, an ADA grant, and a grant which is really amazing, where it's going to, our staff will go out to California, learn a training program by the Trust for Public Land to work with communities who are polarized. So they fly them out, they get training, and they come back and they take those tools and work within our community. So I'm really, really excited about that. And Lauren's one of those individuals, and she also did the ADA grant, so she's bringing in grants. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. And tomorrow and Saturday is Our Creeks, Our Community at Walnut Creek Park. So the Walnut Creek watershed has been identified and brought into the Urban Waters Federal Partnership Program. Congresswoman Ross will speak. Someone from I believe the secretary or the assistant secretary of the Department of Environmental Quality. So big day at Walnut Creek tomorrow, and then it's at Southeast Raleigh YMCA. So great Earth Weekend. We have a number of things that Charles has included here from the Parks Division, but I am going to yield my time to keep going on the agenda.
All right. Any questions?
I'm going to turn it over to Giovanna to talk about something that we've been asked about on and off for a few months, about whether remote meetings or non-remote meetings. So.
All right. So the boards and commissions, this information is coming from council. So council has proposed 3 options for boards and commissions to meet and receive public comments. As the liaison for the Parks, Recreation, Greenway Advisory Board, I've been tasked with discussing available options with the board, made available by council. And because we are one of many of the boards and commissions. They have proposed three options, and the recommended formats presented to council and being brought to each of the committees is, number 1, in-person only, including in-person comments, email public comments, and voicemail public comments. Option 2, which is the option that we are currently in right now, is in-person with streaming. And that also includes public comment, in-person public comment, email public comment, and voicemail public comment. The third option is virtual platform streaming. And this includes email public comment and voicemail public comment. Please note that there is no hybrid options for these groups at this present time. All members to be counted as present will need to be in person, either in person or virtual, depending on which option is selected. Committee meetings will remain in person only. For in-person for the in-person option and for the in-person with streaming options. So at present, the Parks Board, along with 7 other boards, are aligned with option 2. To expound on it, with the in-person option, for in-person meetings, there will be no change to the public policy or the current policy in place regarding public comments. Option 2, the public may attend in person or virtually, but the public will not be able to make comments virtually via the chat or unmuting option. But because our meetings are streamed, that option is not available. For virtual platform streaming, the public may attend virtually, but the public will not be able to make comments virtually. These changes are subject to change once approved by council over the course of a year's time, depending on what they consider as feasible. These are recommendations from council, and note this will be a consensus decision of all boards and commissions. So you can give your thought on where the board wants to meet, but I will take that information back to the full liaison group, and it will be a consensus of everybody on where everybody wants to, on which option everybody wants to meet. So nobody will have, I'm doing virtual, I'm doing in-person streaming, I'm just doing in-person. It will be one option for all boards. So at this time, no, hold on. Once the decision is made, boards would not be able to switch between in-person or virtual from month to month. So if you choose the in-person option, that's what it is. If you choose virtual, that's what it is. And this will provide consistency in ensuring the community is able to follow the Parks Board work. It also makes making sure that the public is able to find the different meetings via website or email. And new city council members are working to keep up with all boards' information. So at this time, I'll turn it back over to the chair for a vote on this item to continue using in-person with streaming or to change to one of the other 2 options, with it being in-person only or virtual only.
Okie doke. Well, I'll open it up for questions that anybody might have for Giovanna to flesh this out. I can give you a little bit of perspective because I attend the Bicycle Pedestrian and Advisory Commission, and they have a member who is, I don't know the person, but I believe is wheelchair, has mobility issues and cannot attend the in-person meetings. So they have been asking for many months to have a hybrid opportunity so that that person could phone in and participate as we all did during Zoom meetings when there was in-person meetings and somebody was remote. So I'm going to, without any question, I'm going to recommend that we maintain our current in-person situation, but I would urge council to consider allowing a hybrid option for, I mean, if somebody were disabled for a period of months, that just means their voice at the table isn't heard at all. And I think there's a general inclination that if possible, we don't all want to go to be back to being boxes on a screen. So that's so with that understanding, any other questions that people have, and if somebody will make a motion that we adopt the in-person with streaming.
I'd like to hear some comments.
What do you mean by comments? You said you want to hear some comments. You mean, so my initial thought, I'm still working on my political correctness, My initial thought is that you will get some of the same types of public comment and concerns, that some of the people who couldn't get down here and couldn't park and couldn't get checked in will continually be left out of the conversation. So as you talk about marginalizing and all of these things, those are the very people who will be affected by those steel buildings, who will not have the opportunity to make public comment unless me or someone else actually drove them here and got them through the process. So as I can appreciate not wanting to be, a Zoomer and all that good stuff, the very people that we're talking about are some of the people who will never be present to make public comment without being walked through the whole process. And again, yeah, I don't know how articulate I was, but I feel like that's part of the challenge that we will continue to experience some of the same types of concerns that are very valid, but it will be some of the same groupings.
And I would agree with that. That's why I think adding the hybrid component would make it a more diverse and inclusive process. But I don't think, my personal opinion is Zoom doesn't automatically increase public participation.
Absolutely.
Because lots of people don't have computer access. And when we were on Zoom, I can remember a particular gentleman who was calling in and was always having, Giovanna was actually helping him get all of the pieces on to make comment, and it was very challenging.
Understood.
Yeah. So, other comments? Okay.
I find the concept of hybrid a bit different here. We're broadcasting this meeting, so that would be half of hybrid that's already being done. It seems we have a phone over here that you take the phone and you set it on the table, put it on speakerphone, and we have remote access.
That's not allowed, because this was same issue. The way Giovanna presented it is exactly what I heard from Ms. Godwin at BPAC on Monday night. So, so that
it's not allowed.
No. But we have a councilwoman here who maybe all the staff have misunderstood, and
anybody can watch it.
I believe, but they can't comment. It's a one-way situation.
They can view it.
I see it all the time, Giovanna, but I'm saying we have a call-in for the person who can't be here due to special circumstances.
They didn't offer that.
They didn't offer that.
That's not an
Council
option.
did not offer
It's
that.
not an option.
We don't get to make up the plan. They told us what the plans would be.
Who is they?
The city council. So the options that Giovanna presented are the options that it's my understanding we have.
None of the above.
The city council lady wants to say something.
Yeah, does Ms. Patton wish to come to the speaker? You don't have to, but
Hello. It's good to be back on this side of the podium. Hello, for everyone who doesn't know me, I'm Megan Patton. I'm a city council member for District B and the liaison to your board. So it is true. Hybrid would be like the best of both worlds. I think not only the boards and commissions want that, the council would also love that. We would love to be able to call in when we individually need to be away or have children sick at home or whatever. And we would also love greater accessibility for residents who have similar, needs. So I just want to say deeply, message received. I think we all agree hybrid would be like the gold standard. We also are limited primarily statutorily. Our city attorney has guided us that short of the governor's state of emergency, that these legislative boards and quasi-legislative boards should be all in person or all remote, and those are those are the options that our city attorney has guided us are available to us. So that's one component. And then there's also like a staff and resourcing component, right? This board gets to sit at our beautiful dais and have access to RTN and streaming, but not all of our boards do, right? Some of them are meeting in community centers and there's just a different sort of burden and also like a staff responsibility and like resourcing need. So those are all factored into the options that were made available. So I don't want you to think we've put these forward and thinking that hybrid is not like understood or heard. Like, we hear you and we share that sentiment, but these are the ones that we've been guided are available both from a resourcing perspective and from a legal perspective. And so in the conversations I've had with some other boards, I think I would advise you to deliberate amongst yourselves about where your greatest need is. So I've seen this board receive a lot of public comments. Some other boards are not, their agendas are not quite as reliant on public comment. It's just not quite as big of a component of their work. There's some boards that really struggle to meet quorum because of the kind of nature of the makeup of their membership might have a lot more people traveling for work or whatever. And so just meeting quorum is something that they are really challenged by, and having an all virtual option helps them meet that so they can actually continue with their work plan. Each board has different work and has different challenges and has like a different kind of community responsibility or a different way that they play out their community responsibilities. So those are deliberations only you all can have. I really just come to the corner to listen. So those are deliberations for you, but I hope that provides a little bit of extra context. And I was whispering over there in the corner because I do want to make sure that while I think consensus will be presented to the council, also in your individual like board decisions will be presented kind of standalone. So we'll be able to see, Parks Board thought this, Human Relations Commission thought this, whatever, and this is how it all comes together for a unified set of opportunities and expectations. That help?
Just a question that I swear I've heard that there are other cities in North Carolina that allow a hybrid option. So what makes Raleigh different?
We have been told that it is a city's decision to comply with the law or not.
Okay.
We've been told there is consensus on what the law asks of us, and there are different risk levels chosen by different municipalities.
I do want to clarify, we are not you obviously know this, but we are not a quasi-judicial board. There are the Board of Adjustment and other things where they're actually acting as a judge and jury kind of thing. We are purely advisory. And so I can definitely see that in an advisory board. And then we have boards like, say, the cemetery board, which has struggled for a quorum at times. And so I can see, and probably doesn't get a lot of public comments. It would meet that thing. So there are a whole spectrum of boards that, but you've heard us say we would really like hybrid.
And you're not alone, and your message is fully received and processed.
Well, thank you, Councilor Patton, for clarifying that. I knew I'd read this somewhere when this was sent out earlier. So the paragraph, if anyone else is a really visual person like me, it's at the bottom of page 2 and the top of page 3 of the director's report. I think it's a little more abbreviated than what Giovanna read to us. And I concur with the suggestion for hybrid. I'm going to call some things like I see them, that most of our commenters who come here in person, most of them tend to be white and have children who are maybe a little more independent, and if they, and then we've had some really incredible retired ambassadors from our Black community, and but they don't have young children to mind at home. So, for example, if I was a single parent, my child's bedtime is at 7 p.m., so I couldn't come participate. And I really hope that we can be as inclusive as possible for the single parents, the people who don't have transportation, and the other obstacles, even like if there's a phone over there. So it sounds like that is what the concern, the shared concern is, but that more inclusivity is something that is incredibly important. Otherwise, we're definitely disenfranchising many people who, even I have a neighbor who takes the bus, she wouldn't make it down here.
Other questions, comments, things? I asked for a motion and I haven't heard one, so
I will make a motion for option 2 with the caveat that we could include some footnote that our board would encourage further exploration of a hybrid option to allow more.
I'll second that.
Option 2 is stay as we are currently. Okay.
Yes, option 2 is in person with live streaming supported by the staff liaison.
All right.
We'll carry that record forward,
Okay.
whatever you vote on.
All right, and all in favor?
Aye.
That is a consensus. I think that. All right. So that's Director's Report, Parks Committee report. There's not a Parks Committee yet, but there will be by July 1. Just telling you. Fred Fletcher Volunteer Committee, May 9th, coming up.
Yes, so when you arrived this evening, you should have found this envelope at your seat, and this is an invitation to the 2023 Fred Fletcher Outstanding Volunteer Awards. It does say RSVP deadline by April 18th, but please don't stress about that. I would just ask that you contact Mary within the coming days so that she can tend to that, and then the city didn't have to worry about paying for postage for us. I do have an email which I will send in the morning just to make sure that folks who are not here were included with this update. I want to be sure first, though, that everybody who has adopted somebody to recognize at the ceremony that you have connected with your people. Great. Okay, then we're good. That's checked off that box. I have a spreadsheet that Mary and I have been tracking. So this ceremony, it's just within 2.5 weeks. It's coming up pretty quickly. So 2 weeks from next Tuesday is May 9th. Arrival time, 5:45 p.m. We ask the Parks Board members arrive early so that we can take official Parks Board photos. This time, I'll make sure to bug Mary afterwards to make sure that we get the photos since we didn't get them last year. But it was fun taking photos with everybody. Additionally, we want to have time to connect with our award recipients. We are to be on stage by 6:50 p.m., and that includes Parks Board members, even those who may not have adopted someone to give a presentation to. If you're coming, you get a seat on the stage. The ceremony is scheduled from 7 to 8 or 8:30 with the dessert reception to follow. You have heard that the Duke Energy Center for Performing Arts has been renamed now the Martin Marietta Center for the Performing Arts. As you may recall, that venue is downtown, and there are 2 parking lots directly across from, and I'll send you links to other parking decks if you need some guidance on that. There are security measures there, restrictions on bag sizes, so I won't be bringing this bag there that night. The dress code is business professional. You will check in with the volunteer services staff upon arrival. As I already mentioned, all those Parks Board members present will be able to be seated on the board, whether you're presenting or not. No assigned seating. When attending, please make sure to bring your own refillable water bottle, or they will have Parks volunteer water bottles available, but there will not be single-use plastics on the premises this time. Yay. Living our values. And I'm trying to see if there's anything else. Beverly and I will do introductions, and so basically the way it works is every person goes up to the mic and says like a minute of lovely things about your award winner, and then Beverly and I come up and hand over like certificate and jacket thing, and then someone takes our picture, and that happens for every single round. I think it's like 13, and it goes by pretty quickly. Our MCs have been confirmed: Elizabeth Gardner and Bill Fletcher, who is, I believe, the son of the Fletcher that this is referring to. And if anyone has any ADA accessibility needs, please let Mary know. There's a side entry for that. So as mentioned, I just wanted to make sure I read that out loud for the record in the cloud tonight, but I will send it in the morning since there's a few people who had to leave. And otherwise, we're covered? Okay, great. See you then.
It is a lovely opportunity to thank all of the people that that help make our parks great, make different events be great events. I had fun talking with the teacher. Greenway Committee, we had a lot going on last Monday, or a week ago Monday. Lisa Schiffbauer presented on Parks Bond, the Greenway projects, and there is a PowerPoint that I will email out to everybody because I think you would enjoy seeing the order in which they are proposed to occur. And we had another issue where a group was using a parking lot and kind of blocking handicap parking spaces. And the question was, had they been issued a permit? And it arose the question of, gee, RPD had issued the permit, but city staff didn't know about it. So it's similar to some other things we heard tonight and helps create more communication. And then we did come up, so the strategic plan, which I think I emailed to everybody, we'll be spending a fair amount of our time, and I really think we might need to figure out, I'm going to talk with Stephen and Giovanna about a way to do it, not at the days, but in smaller conversations, so that we can really brainstorm and look at the issues that the Parks Department is working on and what we want to put in our work plan, because as Stephen said, if we don't have it in our work plan, technically we're not to talk about it. I don't know. But I guess council can bless additions to it. But we want to have a real meaningful work plan. We want to align with staff, but at the same time, we want to align with our community. And so we want to be sure that we have thought through, and because sometimes the strategic plan is kind of dry language, and so we want to color it in with community concerns so that we're looking at what the staff is working on, but making sure that it reflects community concerns as well. So bring your brainstorms on that, and you can go ahead and, I think Giovanna's email said submit ideas by April 24th. So that is just next week, and so be keeping that in mind. And your the Greenway Committee will continue to talk about that, and I'm guessing that the SWAT committee will talk about it as well. And of course, part of our work plan will be all of the projects that are in the bond that will be coming up. So that's the Greenway Committee report. Sustainability,
Okay,
wildlife, urban
right,
trees.
Right. We really enjoyed welcoming.
Gone.
No, he's not there.
Oh, I thought you meant John
Craig
Corner.
joining us, and Christy. We're delighted to have him and his energy as part of our group. We have not had a forum of our membership since November. A quorum, thank you. We are, so that was one of our topics of conversation. We have a conversation happening about composting food scraps that we're going to be learning more about. Whether that's an initiative that would fit with sustainability. Some citizens are working on doing that. There's an operation in Cary that has set up a station. So anyway, we have plenty of things to discuss at our next meeting.
And I will add to that our your attendance at the monthly meeting is sort of, quote, mandatory to continue to be on. And then your participation in the committees is really where things get a little down to the nitty gritty and the real details of what's happening in the park system and in each committee. So I do appreciate everyone's attendance at those committee meetings. So thank you.
Marcia, the individual from the composting with the food scraps, they did reach out to me. They were supposed to be here for public comments, but I don't know what happened. So.
Well, thank you, Giovanna.
Which does show that we do, and I do think, though, that it's a weakness on our website, and it is perhaps a citywide weakness of people knowing where, and this goes to April's comment, where where's that point of contact? Where is that community? And it's not the community engagement office, because that's a different beast. How do people know to contact you? And that is, we don't want people to have a PhD in public engagement to know how to find and to give input. So
I would say it's definitely it's a city thing. I've been on that website looking for summer jobs for my kid, all kinds of things. And I was like, I'm fairly intelligent, but it is a beast. And I've talked to a few people. I don't know who the webmaster is, but I would really love to have public comment about that, to figure out how that website can be more friendly regarding whatever you're looking for.
I couldn't agree more. So that comment taken.
Couldn't find it on the website.
All right. So Arts Commission.
Chris isn't here.
Chris isn't here. Did he email you anything? No. His wife had some procedure. Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission. Well, they spent a lot of time talking about the meeting format the other night. And it was actually a fairly short meeting, but the meeting format was an important component of that. And I have my agenda right here. And I did want to mention, Mr. Bentley mentioned that there is an event at Roberts Park on Steam. Yeah. It will include a bicycle rodeo. Yes. Oaks and Spokes is setting that up at 7:30 in the morning on Saturday morning. So be there by 10:30. I think Oak starts at 9:30 or 10:30.
The ride, I think, starts a little bit earlier. The Steam starts at 10:30.
Okay, and it's not a ride from Roberts. It's actually a rodeo.
The bike rodeo.
It will have different stations for kids to be there, so it should be really cool. So I did want to
Beverly
mention that.
Is that her name? Oh. Yeah, I'm so sorry. One more thing, if I could, about the STEAM Day tomorrow. It's at Roberts Park, and there's a robotics team that my son's a part of, the Cyber Bears, and it meets at St. Monica Teen Center. So the Parks and Rec is very instrumental in giving them a place to practice. So they'll be there with their robot tomorrow.
Oh,
So
cool. On Saturday
on Saturday. It's all a blur. I got 30-something days till school is out. Yes, ma'am, on Saturday. So just super excited about the Parks and Rec providing those young people the opportunity to do STEAM and have the robots and have the children see that on Saturday.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very multimodal in many different meanings of that word. So that's very cool to know. But otherwise, bicycle and pedestrian, what did I do with that meeting? All right, guys. I can't. Greenway. No. Anyway, here it is. That was the meeting options and their retreat and their various committees reporting. I did, and you can go on the website, but I looked at their work plan because I thought it would be instructive as we work to create ours. So I suggest that anybody who, we can send it out and share it with you all, but I thought, couldn't find 2021s, but I did find 2020, so we're a little ahead on that. But anyway, that's BPAC. And Bob attended as well. Anything I've missed?
No, they did put a lot of time into talking about format like that, and they had a very good representation of their members, but I wanted to point out to you, I think we had 12 out of 14 tonight. That isn't bad.
Yep. Okay, historic cemeteries. Charles?
Once again, to our chair, members of the board, I am Charles Craig, Assistant Director for Raleigh Parks. I have a very short update for you. It'll be quick, straight to the point. The first thing I would like to share with you is we have one vacancy. I tell you, we was full there for about 30 days. And I was excited about it. But unfortunately, we had one member to resign due to relocating outside of Raleigh, North Carolina. Our next meeting will be next week on April 27th, and it will start at 5:30 p.m. at the Tucker House. That ends my report. Any questions?
Charles, I believe there was an appointment this week to fill that. It's
Yes.
Connie Crumpler.
Yes. That is, we're back. Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Well, related to that, I have a friend who developed a bike ride that started at Oberlin Village Cemetery and went to every cemetery of the city cemeteries. And if anybody wants to do that, let me know, and I'm sure I could ask David to pull it together again, and Terry Harper, who used to be on that.
Oh, yeah.
But it was really interesting because we really have some interesting cemeteries and some really interesting people buried, especially in the city cemetery and in Mount Hope. So
thank you.
Anyway, Dick's Leadership Committee, like I said, that attended. We attended or got a preview visit of the park in Cary, which is alone $68 million for 7.5 acres. It is really fancy. But we will have, Dick's Park is 308 acres. So let's just say, other than that, historic resources and museum. Other than that, everything that has been presented, Kate shared with us tonight. So, historic Resources and Museum Advisory Board?
I did not attend their meeting.
All right. I did see in the paper that Ernest Dollar was featured in the...
Yes, he did a walking tour with a group from the NNO, basically with journalists, and they said he's someone that just misses no detail. And if you haven't gone on a walking tour with Ernest, it's amazing. It really is. Yep.
And then chair comments, mostly it's about plants, since that's been the theme tonight. There is the Mordecai plant sale Saturday and Sunday. There's the Jocelyn plant sale. There's the Roberts Park bike radio and steam. And the Our Creeks, Our Community at Southeast Raleigh YMCA, which you can ride your bikes to on the Walnut Creek Greenway. Friday is Walnut Creek. Okay, I thought that was Saturday too. And Earth Day, which is at Dix Park. Last year I attended, and it was fabulous. And lots of hands-on activities and very family-friendly food trucks and.
May I say something about last year on Earth Day? That was the day that the city of Raleigh got the famed certificate for joining the Biophilic Cities Network. So it's time to consider what our next goals will be. That's on the work plan for our community.
Good. Very good. All right. Any other board comments?
If you haven't seen Wally, I highly recommend it.
The movie?
Yes.
Yeah, it's good. Very little talking. I know we're here late, so I'll keep it short. One thing, I remember last meeting, and my apologies, because I was slow in the uptake looking at the agenda, things to talk about. I know I thought we were going to hear from Lisa about the feasibility. Did that ever come up? Did I miss that?
Nope, you did not miss it. I sent a message out saying that we were going to push it to May.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
the level of detail to pull together, like the tree surveys and stuff, they were like, we'd rather be full and complete.
Yeah.
And it'll be in May.
It'll be in May.
Yes.
Oh, on Mine Creek. Yeah.
Yeah, Mine
Yes.
Creek. I will lodge this one thing to think about. You've got 3 properties on the other side of the creek. That's 3 homeowners. We've got essentially 1 homeowner, although it represents a lot of people. So I say that from the complexity side. We're going to run into that issue again. So just keep that in mind as we look about it. That's one of the things I said to Lisa. I said, we can take it over there, but you've got 1, 2, 3 homeowners, not just a townhome community. So that was number one. Number two, you guys probably know this. There's been some quite a few break-ins at the Noose canoe launch parking lot. Did I also miss that in an email?
No, but we do get those reports either through the RPD or someone sends them to us.
I was talking to somebody about it who loves the Greenway, and I know that the trick is we can't guarantee safety on the Greenway, especially after hours when it's dark and things like that. But he was part of, and I'm going to read it, and you guys may have familiarity with it who have history. I don't know who Bruce Embry is.
He is, I'm not sure if he's still active, but the Greenway Volunteers through the Raleigh Police Department.
Yes. Yeah. So it was interesting because he said he would go and he would ride. He would just do his rides on the Greenway, but he would wear something. And the benefit of it is that it showed people like
presence.
Yes, presence. And I didn't know if that's still being done, if that's something that.
Yes, ironically, they had their banquet last night.
They did.
They had 55 volunteers. Yes. Now they took a pretty good hit with COVID because they ride in pairs in the car, and you couldn't ride in pairs for the longest time.
Okay.
Their goal is to double that next year.
Love this.
They have a lot of retirees, so I've spoke with their volunteer service coordinator and the chief, and they would love a younger demographic that bikes. You throw on a little.
And go do a bike.
Yeah, little cover up. And people, when they see it, it's bright yellow, has the Greenway logo, then it has the police department logo on it. And people, they say, hello, how are you? Like they're ambassadors. So it really makes people, but they're eyes and ears. So that's,
their eyes and ears.
Yeah.
And I thought, because when I went to the canoe parking lot, this is the truth, just to park to do a run, and there was a police officer there, and broad daylight. Somebody had smashed passenger door window open and taken stuff out of the car. I mean, broad daylight, and there are lots of cars. So it just got me thinking about that again. I'm glad to know that exists.
Yes.
Yeah.
That did get really shut down during COVID.
It did.
And I don't know about riding in cars because everybody I know has been on a bicycle that's done it.
No, they actually have people that go, they have a Greenway volunteer car, and they'll drive around, stop, and walk around.
Oh, well, I know people have done it, but they've all been on bikes.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
But a good thing to bring to our attention, and it's probably something because the city did fund more officers to be on the Greenway, we
Yes.
probably would be benefit from getting a update on that. So, other comments around the table? Anybody else?
I have one before we close. Bob, you asked, you received. Parking pass for tomorrow and Saturday for the rowing event out at Lake Wheeler. So if anyone needs a parking pass, please see me.
I'm glad we asked.
Yeah, well, and you can inspect the ground and figure out where their, you can at least learn where their current racking is.
My plan is to go out there more than once over the 2-day period and scope out the schedule and go back with the wife and look, she's very much into that, and make several trips perhaps.
All right.
Just to visit. I'm interested in how they did it also.
Great.
Very cool.
Well, that will be great, and I will call this meeting adjourned.